Good afternoon. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, for permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and for consent to sever property to create new lots. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid, in-person, and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx on an online digital platform. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called upon to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelists when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with a written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or, in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Hearing procedure. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Making your submissions. When an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5-minute mark. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals, either in support or opposed to the application, will be invited to speak. Generally, we first call on speakers in the hearing room and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant agent has an opportunity to rebut those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff for items in the afternoon time slots? Are there any deferral requests, Ms. Deputy Secretary Treasurer?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't see any for this afternoon for deferral request, as well as no files to be closed or withdrawn.
Okay. First item is number 21, 11 Kendall Avenue. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2 1/2 story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a front and rear second story addition, a rear third story addition, a rear second story deck, a rear third story balcony, a front basement walkout to accommodate one secondary suite within the basement, and a rear basement walkout. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, and we have correspondence in support from 74 Walmer Road, Unit 1, 72 Walmer Road, Unit 2, 74 Walmer Road, Unit 2, and 9 Kendall Avenue. Lucas Cocomello.
Hi, Lucas, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Lucas Cocomello from Sherlock. Address is 340 Church Street in Oakville.
All right. So I think this is reasonably straightforward, sir. So we're going to take it into committee. Do you have anything you want to say to the panel before we go into committee?
No, I have nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, panel? Yes, Sahir.
Sorry, just one question with regard to the third floor balcony and the second floor rear deck. I note there's no privacy screening on either side. I'm trying to think which sides they are. I think it might be south and north. Would you be okay with that as a condition?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, do we have any comments or a motion? Yes, Sahir.
I'll move a motion, Chair. There are no conditions other than the one I've just requested, and that is for the second floor rear deck and third floor balcony that there be privacy screens on both the north and south sides.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Yim, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you, sir. Number 22, 302 Grace Street. The purpose of this application is to alter the 3-story townhouse dwelling by constructing a rear 1-story addition with a front basement walkout and a rear ground floor deck. There will be one primary unit and one secondary unit within the basement. Also, to alter the 1-story ancillary building, the detached garage, by constructing a complete second story with a rear Juliet balcony for a laneway suite in the rear yard abutting the laneway. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant and email correspondence from planning and a staff report from urban forestry. Kirsten Thompson.
Hello, Mr. Chair and committee members. I am representing the owners of 302 Gray Street. My address is 113 Montrose Avenue in Toronto.
Okay, so, this looks relatively straightforward. Do you have anything you want to say to the panel before I take it into committee?
No, I have nothing in addition to the drawings and what you've already stated.
Okay, so do we have any questions, Larry?
No,
or
no questions, Chair.
Motion?
Just going to, an observation and make a motion, if that's okay?
Yes?
I would agree with you. I think this is a very modest and reasonable application. The rear addition's fairly small. There's no landscaping variances.
Excuse me, Larry? I can't hear. Can you speak to the mic?
Yes, thank you. I was muted.
Yeah, you
Thank
stand
you,
really
Yim.
distance.
Thank
Okay.
you, Yim. Everyone else could hear me just fine. I was just going to support this application. I think it is a fairly modest rear one-story add. It's not imposing at all on any of the neighbors. There's no landscaping variance, and interesting, the laneway suite is as of right. There are no variances with respect to laneway, which is always commendable. So I think this is a supportable application. I'd like to move approval subject to forestry condition number 1.
Okay, seconder, Sahir, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you. Number 23, 228 Glen Road. Purpose of the application is to alter the existing 3-story detached dwelling by constructing a new front porch with exterior stairs, a new front basement garage with a new driveway, a new rear ground floor stairs, and a new rear basement window well. Also to reconstruct the ground floor bay window with a new rooftop and a new west side second floor skylight roof. With this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant. And we have opposition from 226 Glen Road. Terrell Wong.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Tyrrell Wong, and I live at 12 St. Andrews Gardens. And I am the architect and applicant, or agent for the applicant.
Okay, and there's some opposition, so we need a brief presentation.
Absolutely. The story here for this property is about transforming the property to reduce the existing zoning variances as much as possible. So the existing conditions are that we have a larger driveway currently, so we'd like to make it smaller. The total area of the soft landscaping will be larger than it is in its existing condition, but the total area of the building remains the same. These are minor alterations to the building. Currently, there are 2 pressure-treated retaining walls at the front of the property with stairs on the east and west sides at the front of the home. Both of these retaining walls are at the end of their usable life. Carpenter ants have infested the walls, and their replacement is required to ensure safety. On the west side, we have a non-code compliant set of steps that are made from pressure-treated wood ties with some infill gravel up an existing slope that's on city property. There are 2 trees located on city property around that area, one on the neighbor's, a larger tree, a Siberian elm, which is located at 226. And there is a much smaller Norway maple that's leaning over onto the driveway in front of 228 Glen Road. We have an arborist report in our file. To avoid more injury to the Siberian elm, which is much bigger in front of 226, we want to remove the original steps and replace the existing retaining wall with a new retaining wall while maintaining as far a distance as possible to still allow for an existing driveway to remain. We want to plant up the hill with grass and native sedges that would, and add an additional erosion grid under the grass to allow for occasional access to the backyard from the front of the property. But mostly this will be entirely grassed over. This will increase the soft landscaping from the street at the front facade. In this year, just to add insult to injury to the poor smaller tree that we're asking to have removed, Rogers came and dug a hole to put in fiber cables. We have pictures of that in the folder. And this has further undermined this Norway maple, which is an invasive species here, and we were recommending its removal. There are a few minor variances we're asking for. The reverse slope driveway is the only one that's actually new to the property. The rest are reductions of existing variances. There are many examples, as you can see from the images that I had in the file, of other properties on the same street and in the same area, which also have reverse slope driveways. Our existing driveway is being reduced in size from 30 meters squared down to 24 meters squared to accommodate our code compliant masonry stairs. And we think that the addition of these new walls will be more in keeping with the neighboring architecture. The new driveway is going to maintain the existing slope from the street all the way to the property line. So that won't change. That is, the water is directed towards the city. After that is when it will slope towards the house to allow us to lower the existing garage to the level of the remaining basement. This will make our basement more accessible, and the slope on the driveway is at most 1 in 12, which is the same as an accessible ramp. And in addition to that, we're adding a commercial linear drain to be installed in front of the garage, connected to the weeping tile system as per OBC. We're also changing the existing pavers on the driveway to meet the green infrastructure resources on the Toronto website for the definition of permeable pavers. This is going to increase the permeability of the existing site greatly over the entire front property. The soft landscaping, we've increased it by adding some soft landscaping in the driveway area itself, as well as on the slope by removing those steps. And we feel that this increase, although not, the entire front lawn, dealing with the existing condition, we feel that this is makes this variance minor. And then the last thing is the floor space index. Currently, the building will remain exactly as the same as it is. There are no new additions planned for it. The addition of the front steps is just replacing, now that they're made out of masonry, an existing wood staircase. And at the rear, 2 existing bay windows are being removed, and the existing bay window in the kitchen on the first floor is being replaced. So that is my presentation.
Perfect timing.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions, panel? Okay, Valerie Sinclair and Scott Williams.
Hello, Scott, you've been unmuted.
Oh, hello, can you hear me? This is Scott.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. No, I don't have anything to say other than I fully agree with what they are doing there, and I think it will be a nice improvement to the neighborhood.
All right, could you just give us your name and your address for the record?
Yes, this is Scott Williams and Valerie Sinclair, and we are at 213 Glen Road.
Okay, could you tell us, are you Valerie Sinclair?
I am.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Ms. Wong, I don't think we need to hear from you again because there's really no opposition. That was somebody in support. So take it to the panel. Do you have any further questions or comments, or do you have a motion? Yes, here.
If there are no comments, Chair, I'd like to make a comment and then move a motion. I was also quite pleased to see that there's some forethought with regard to the driveway with permeable pavement. So I'm glad
I
to
don't
see
think
that.
we can hear you. Can you speak to the mic, please? Yeah.
I'm so sorry, yeah. I'm also very pleased to see that this is linear drainage at the bottom of the driveway, because I have neighbors who've had water rushing right into their basements as a result of that slope. There are no conditions attached to this particular, there are no conditions attached. I'd like to move a motion to approve.
Okay, seconder? Yim, all in favor? Have your approval, thank you. Number 24, 17 Myrtle Avenue. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing front and rear two-story additions, including basement, a second-story side addition, a complete third-story addition with a rear rooftop deck, a front porch and steps, and a rear ground floor deck and stairs. The existing ancillary building, a detached garage in the rear yard, will be maintained. With this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant. We have staff reports from urban forestry and community planning. Larry Mintoff.
Hi, yes, it's Larry Mintoff here, and my address is 39 Old Mill Road.
Okay, can we have your presentation? There are some people who are registered to speak. Not sure whether they're opposed or not, but you better give us a brief presentation.
Okay, our intent was to take this existing dwelling that's been in need of repair for quite a while and transform it into a suitable home for a family that would like to see their investment in the community. We have the intent of going 3 stories due to the relatively narrowness of the lot, and to get an appropriate footprint and square footage that would suit a family of 4+ people. The one thing I wanted to clarify, you had noted, or it has been noted, that this is a semi-detached house. Technically, this is not a semi-detached house. It is a detached house, but the way it's been positioned, it looks like it's butting up to the existing adjacent house to the west, but there's frankly about 6 inches difference between the two. We feel that we've been sensitive to the design. With the 3-story design approach, we've intentionally set back the 3rd floor to minimize any impact to the streetscape by approximately 7.5 feet. We've kept the roof line relatively low to minimize a suggestive imposing impression on the street. We feel that it's going to add to the community, and it's certainly going to add to the need for more suitable housing, not just within that community, but within the city of Toronto.
Okay. Ren Jian Seng.
Hello, Renjeng, you've been unmuted.
Yeah,
Mr.
Did you-
Singh? Yeah, Mr. Singh, are you there?
老公，我不会讲英文啊。
Can we have your name and address, please?
EJH Luxland, EJHENG, Luxland, Westland, Jian
你可以。
RNJIAN
G.
316 Avenue.
Can we have your comments, please? Mr. Zhang, are you still there?
Sorry, I'm Dan's niece. He doesn't speak English. Do you have an interpreter?
So he doesn't speak English?
Yeah, he's only speak Mandarin.
Okay, so, but did you ask for an interpreter?
I think he requests. He doesn't understand.
Are you able to speak for him, on behalf of him, and provide his concerns to us?
呢個咩聲？我幫你講呢個。
可以。
Yeah, I think he's okay, but I'm not really sure what's going on this here about his matter.
Okay, so not.
佢話咩聲？幫你，但係你先叫佢經常。
哇，就清楚嘅，跟講，如果以抄我以，
I can, yeah.
you know,
Okay, can you provide us your first and last name?
Yes, Jenny Zhao.
Can you say that again, please?
Jenny Zhao.
Can you spell the last name, please?
ZHAO.
Okay, can you just list out what his concerns are briefly?
Can we get his address?
He's living at 313.
His address is 313 Jones Avenue.
Toronto, yeah.
Okay, you may speak.
Actually, we thought we have a name for filing his parking ticket, but we realized this is for the something regarding the house,
Oh my God.
the storage. I'm not sure what's going on here on the hearing, so.
Okay, so we have him registered to speak in opposition for the construction proposal at 17 Myrtle Avenue. So if there's no issues, then we'll move on to the next speaker.
Oh, so.
This is not for parking permits.
Oh, this is an application for for permit for storage for news.
No, there's a proposal at 17 Myrtle Avenue, and we're hearing the application this afternoon. So does he have a concern with what's being constructed at 17 Myrtle Avenue?
Oh.
So maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the next speaker, speak with him, and then we'll come back to see if there's any issues, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to mute you right now and move on to the next speaker. Thank you.
Yeah, Gurpreet Jutia and/or Tarsem Jutia?
Yes, speaking, yeah.
Yeah, what's your name, sir?
My Tarsem Jatla from 17 Myrtle Avenue.
You're 17?
And it was 21, sir, 21 Myrtle Avenue. Sorry, 23, I'm sorry.
23 Myrtle
23,
Avenue.
yes.
Okay, could you speak into the microphone?
Okay. I see it's a semi-detached home because it's joint on right side of the property, other property. I don't know how they say detach.
Well,
But I have no objection, whatever he is doing, but we also need to extend the same thing what he does to his property, to the front and the back.
Pardon?
We will also, we have no objection if you extend it to
Yeah.
the back and front, But we also want to extend, but it's conformity. All in front facade of the house, the same straight line. When you do the front, then it will be a little bit protruding to the front of the street. So we can also do that if he does it.
So you want to do the same thing
Same
that
thing,
he's
yeah.
doing?
Exactly.
Eventually, so
Eventually.
if you might be able, you'd have to apply
Yeah, same thing.
similarly, come to the Committee of Adjustment
Right.
and seek approval for whatever you're planning to do.
Okay, that's why I come here just to see
Yeah.
how it work, right?
Yeah.
So
That's
you're
right.
here listening to what happens
What
here
happened
so
and
that
what's
you can
happening.
see if you could do the same thing.
Exactly, yes.
Okay,
All right.
thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mintoff, let's go back to Mr. Zen and see if we can get something from them.
Hi.
Yes,
And he's not aware of this application.
Okay, so you're in the wrong place.
Yes, we are in the wrong place, so.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope
Thank you.
I hope you find the ticket place. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Mintoff, I don't think we need to hear from you because there's really no opposition. So panel, were there any comments you want to make or make a motion here?
Chair, I think there was one thing I wanted to ask about was, there are two things actually.
Yeah, I have a question too.
Sorry. One is that the forestry condition, there's a planning condition, but the third floor deck, I think there might be privacy overlook issues on the east and west sides, and I don't think the drawings don't indicate the appropriate 1.5 meter height. So I'd like to put that in as a condition. The other piece that Mr. Minto can perhaps provide some information on, that is the front walkway. I believe that's going to be new, and if it's new, I'd like to add that that be produced out of permeable materials.
I'm sorry, am I unmuted right now or?
Yes, yes, you can speak.
Right, okay, yes. I mean, I think to a certain, like, we can be as accommodating as we need to be, obviously. And we want to ensure that we are sensitive to the needs for soft surfaces. And our intent is to be able to accommodate that at the rear of the back through vertical landscaping as it was requested, and finding that balance at the front. We obviously want a walkway that's durable. So if there's an approach that we can take so that we can have both a durable pathway to the house as well as one that would accommodate drainage, then we would certainly be open to that.
If I may just ask a question while I've got you here. In the rear, you've got the soft landscaping section, and below that, I'm not quite sure what the materials, I can't quite read the drawing. Oh, that's permeable as well, so that's good. Terrific.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
And there was a request by council or by committee to consider planting trees in the back to add to the soft landscape in a vertical aspect, and which we had agreed to.
Terrific, thank you.
Yim?
Yes, my question is, this is the plan you have. My question is that you have a big deficiency in soft landscaping in the rear yard, right? And I do not know, because you are proposing that little bit of, where your garage and the existing garage, the little strip on the north side is going to be planting? Or what I'm trying to say, if you look at your stats on this plan, you're proposing 29%, but in the notice, you only have 25%. I think whether that is a bit too low, it's only you're providing half of what's required.
So am I able to speak to that?
It's 29%, and okay, please, because it's a discrepancy there,
So what we did was when we laid out the back, we have a certain portion that would be soft surfaces such as grass, and then the remaining area would be permeable pavers. And then as we were approached regarding an increase to the percentage, they, this one person I spoke with from committee suggested planting trees along the west property line to increase the amount of absorption, which we have done. So I think for all intents and purposes, most of the backyard has some level of absorption. There is the existing garage that's in place.
Yes, what I'm trying to clarify is that on your site plan, you state that you have 29%, which is more acceptable to me, I think. Then on the notice, you only have 25. Is the site plan indicating a little bit more soft landscaping, or is just a calculation mistake, or what? Because there's a 4% difference, right? It's quite a big difference to me. Yeah.
I'm not, I don't have that answer in front of me right now. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check that.
Well, sir, we have to deal with this today, so if 25% is the figure, we're going to consider it on the basis of 25%. If the figure is 29%, which is better from our point of view, you might want to put that in. But as of now, it says 25, so I think we got to consider it's 25%.
Correct. And once again, we were open to planting a series of trees that met the request by the City of Toronto as well for the yard, and that is on file.
Right. So would that improve the soft landscaping percentage?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Exactly. Yes.
There's a strip along the side of the garage. Is that part of the 29 or 25?
That is part of that as well, and that's just going to be gravel, but it'll be porous as well too.
But is that what lifted it from 25 to 29?
I think there was a calculation error at one point, and then it went to you know what happened? I think that there was a calculation error at one time, and it went from 25 to 29.
So is it 29? Could we change the variance number 3 to 29?
Well, I'm not sure what to say for that, whether or not it's in the document right now in our variance, it's at 25%, which is the more punitive one. If we're able to acknowledge that we're able to accommodate in many different ways, and then if that meets the conditions, then we would like to consider that then. As you can see with the yard, we've obviously had to accommodate as much soft surfaces as possible due to the size of the garage and the existing yard. So I'm suggesting that we consider the 25%.
Okay, so you want us to deal with the 25%?
Yes.
Okay, so here?
Just a question. I'm looking at drawing 02, the site plan. You've got a stairwell that I think it's coming out of the first floor, the deck.
Correct.
At the rear. Just to the south of it, as you're facing the stairs, it will be on your right-hand side. You've got some permeable pavers indicated there. Is that an access way out to the front, and therefore you need some hardscape, or is that a piece that could be turned into soft landscape as well?
Well, part of it is the ability, the desire to have an area where they might have some seating out in the yard, and then there is a walkway to the back lane, as well as a walkway towards the front as well too. We can certainly minimize that and cut back on that if that is desired. But at the end of the day, we still want to be able to have a relatively suitable surface to be able to access that back without having to walk on the grass, frankly.
Yeah, I think that might certainly help your soft landscape issue, because
yeah, absolutely,
it's quite low.
Yeah.
Would you be able to increase the 25% by a few percentage points so that we can walk away and say that's what you,
Absolutely,
Ready?
absolutely, absolutely.
can you give us a number?
Well, I mean, okay, so we're dealing with 2025. How about 27%?
We'll hold you to that.
Okay.
We need to know how many square meters that would represent.
Okay, I can't necessarily calculate that here on the spot.
Well, if you could go to 29, then it's already calculated for you. Like if you could go back to 29,
Yeah, I can support 29%.
yeah, then you've got 327 square feet. So why don't you do that, and then you just size your patio accordingly to.
That's fine. Let's go for
To
29.
make it 29.
Yeah, let's go for 29.
How many square meters is that?
It's in square feet in here. It's 327 square feet.
Well, we should have it in square meters, because everything else is. So, divide by 9 or something.
Okay, I'm
Through
sorry,
you,
you
Mr.
waiting for me to
Chair.
do that calculation?
Yeah,
It's
29%.
31.92.
It's
I'll give you that.
30.38 square meters. 29% at 30.38 square meters.
Yeah, so exactly, 30.38 square meters.
Okay, all right, thank you. We will now take it into committee.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, I believe we'll also have to amend the purpose to read a two-story detached dwelling instead of
Yes.
semi?
Yes.
Okay. And through you, Mr. Chair, the planning report refers to trees. How many trees? Is there a minimum amount that was agreed upon with
I think
community
one.
planning?
I think it says 1, I think.
One tree? It says
Yeah.
trees.
Oh, trees.
Hmm.
Okay, I
Maybe
remember wrongly then, yeah.
Maybe the agent has had that discussion with staff?
Am I able to speak or still, or?
Yes, no, we want to know how many, if trees represents 1 tree or 5 trees, or how many?
So when I spoke with the staff and they requested if there's any way that we can increase the soft landscaping, they proposed trees and we agreed. And I asked them, how many trees would you like? And they said, well, we'll leave that to you, at least 1. Now, my question to you though, is the fact that we're implementing the vertical aspect the way that was proposed, does that give us any concession to the 29% or not? Because the whole idea was the tree to offset the 25% at the time.
Well, where are you planting these? What's the surface of the area you're planting the trees in?
The intent was to plant that along the west property line.
And-
Columnar trees, suitable trees that would, indigenous trees that would work well in the yard.
Chair, my view would be that the trees are for canopy and shade as opposed to soft landscaping, which is more about absorption of water.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it's soft landscaping, but it's like permeable paving. It helps the situation.
But he's
Okay.
looking for relief from the 29. I don't
No,
think
I
we
don't
should give
think
that.
it- I don't
I
think.
don't think so. I think the 29, I would like to support that, but I think we can put in the minimum of 1 tree as conditions.
Okay. So
We
make
can
a
say that,
motion, Yem, make a motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion with the revised clause as detached dwelling, and also revise variance number 3 to 29%, and with the forestry condition number 1 and the staff report number 1, planting at 1 tree, minimum 1 tree in the rear yard.
And if I may, Ian,
Oh,
the
did
third
you
floor
mention
deck
something?
privacy
Yes, you
screen,
mentioned, yeah.
east and west
Yeah.
sides.
Yes, okay, yeah, I forgot that. All right, that, I will include that also as conditions, yeah.
Okay, so you second that, Sahir?
Sure.
All right,
I will
all in
second.
favor? You have your approval. Thank you, sir. It's hard work, but we got there. Number 25, 206 Oakwood Avenue. And the purpose of this application is to convert the existing rear one-story ancillary building, a detached garage, into a garden suite. We have materials submitted by the applicant. We have email correspondence from Transportation Engineering and a report from Urban Forestry, opposition from several properties on Krang and one property on Oakwood. Okay, so we are at Benjamin Larson.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. My address is 15 Gervais Drive, Suite 503, Toronto, Ontario, M3C1Y8, and I'm a senior planner at Hunter & Associates, and I'm applicant to the agent.
All right, so just repeat your name for the record.
Benjamin Larson.
Okay, thank you. We have some other speakers, so perhaps you can give us a brief
Through you,
presentation.
Mr. Chair, I cannot reach the other speakers.
Oh, you cannot reach?
No.
Okay, we don't have any opposition. So, all right, I'm going to take it into a committee. Do you have anything you want to say to the panel before we go into committee?
Just that I worked on the original fourplex and detached garage on this site back in 2020. That was unanimously approved by the CFA at that time. And then the owner came forward with this desire to convert this to a garden suite, as there had been local and provincial changes, including the missing middle review the city has done. And there's been, I guess, a shortage that's been flagged in terms of garden suites as an area to add more housing. So in my opinion, it's appropriate. I can give a full-fledged presentation on all of this as it's all summarized in my planning rationale. But if you have any questions, I'm open to answer anything you might have.
Thank you.
I think we all we understand that it's, you're basically proposing to take an existing building and convert it into a garden suite with no external changes, just internal changes. Is that right?
That is correct.
And you have access to, what street is it? It is
Glenhurst Avenue.
Right, okay. Yeah, I think this is fairly straightforward, Chair.
Okay.
Happy to make a motion. I think the fact that it's already existing and it's converting it into desirable use, it's also with a very short walk to St. Clair and rapid transit. So it's a good location to add this kind of density. So I think it's a very supportable application. I'd like to move approval. There's a forestry condition number 1. I guess that's because there might be digging for services. I'll move approval with forestry condition number 1.
Okay, we have a secondary here. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. Number 26, 560 Jane Street. The purpose of the application is to alter the existing 2-story detached dwelling by constructing front and rear second-story additions. With this, we have material submitted by the applicant and a report from Transportation. Okay. Jennifer and Derek Liang.
Hello, Derek, you've been unmuted.
Hi, I believe my sister will be speaking, and I'm just here to add anything if she can't clarify anything.
So we need your name and your address, and you could speak a little slower. I didn't quite catch what you said.
Oh, sorry. I think the internet is causing the feedback on the speaking of the microphone. My name is Derek Liang. I'm the brother of the applicant, Jennifer Liang. She will be doing the speaking. I will be doing some of the work on the house, so I will answer any questions that she won't be able to answer.
All right, we just need the person.
She requested.
Pardon?
sorry, she requested that you unmute her. She can't speak.
Oh, she's,
Hello, Jennifer, you've been
Hi,
unmuted.
Jennifer?
Hi, you guys here?
Yeah, can we
Hi
have your
there.
name and address, please?
Hi there, my name is Jennifer Liang. I'm at 560 Jane Street. I am seeking approval for 3 minor variances, which are building landscaping and FSI, in order to build a second floor addition to the front and rear of the house.
Okay, could
The
you
building
just
length
hang,
as it's
could you just hang on, because I think it's reasonably straightforward. We don't need a presentation. Do you have anything that you wanted to say before I took it into committee? Anything, I mean,
no.
we have your application, so we know what it is.
Okay. No, I don't have anything to say. It's straightforward.
All right, thank you. Panel, any questions? All right, do we have comments or a motion? Say here.
Could you all move the motion to approve? I think there's a TTC comment, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, TTC wants something.
TTC staff report. Something to do with the bus stop not being obstructed.
I don't think we can hear you, sorry.
I beg your pardon again. We'll have to get you here, Ying. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because if I'm speaking for other people, if I don't hear, maybe perhaps the other people cannot hear
You're
you
right.
either.
So I believe TTC has a comment. It's, I think, to do with the possibility of a bus stop which may be obstructed. I imagine the bus stop is very close to this property.
So I would think that was a condition. So here.
We can add it as a condition, so there'll be TTC condition.
It's right across from a school, it's a very busy bus stop.
Bus stop. So that would be the one condition, TTC. Other than that, nothing else.
Okay, thank you. Second, Yim, all in favor? Have your approval, thank you. This is Jane Street. Okay, next, number 27, 171 Cedric Avenue. And the purpose of this application is to construct a new 3-story detached dwelling with a front covered porch, a front integral garage, a front 3rd-story terrace, a rear basement walkout, a rear ground floor deck, and a rear 3rd-story terrace. We have materials submitted by the applicant. We have opposition from Moore Avenue. 1, no address provided, 1, no name provided. 180 and other addresses on Cedric, and a 20 signature petition in opposition from properties on Cedric. Miss Evangelista.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members.
Good
Can you hear me
afternoon.
okay?
We can hear you.
Wonderful. Ida Evangelista, on behalf of the owner of 171 Cedric.
Yeah, just give us your address again.
Sure. 53 Bentworth Avenue, Toronto, M6A, 1 Peter 5.
Okay. Somebody is in opposition, so we need a brief presentation.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. So I too, and I'm in receipt of all the letters that were sent in. I've reviewed everything. I understand, you know, everybody's discontent and disaccord with what has happened here at the property. Nevertheless, what we would like to do is we would like to rebuild the home. So initially, And we have two variances that are in front of you. One is for a side yard setback, and one is for an FSI. So the side yard setback, initially there was a mutual drive with a garage at the back that you really could not fit a car through that driveway to access the garage at the rear. So now the new design for this home contains an integral garage, and that's why we're asking for 0.45 side yard setback. Now, I would like to add that in this area, this is an area, it's designated RM, and 11 meter height, 3-story. And what we're proposing and you know, what is characteristic to this neighborhood. So what we're proposing is very characteristic to this neighborhood. We are asking for the increased FSI. However, in this neighborhood, on Cedric, Winona, and Rabina, which is to the east and to the west, we have FSIs of 1.10 to 1.33. Behind us on Rabina, we have FSIs of 1.1 to 1.43. And to the east of us, which is Winona, or my apologies, to the west of us, which is Winona, we have FSIs of 1.06 to 1.16. So this is characteristic to the neighborhood. This is something that moving forward, this is the new reinvestment that's happening in this neighborhood. It's in the city, it's close to transit, to schools. It's a community neighborhood association here. So our side yard setbacks, also, if you look at the building footprint, you'll see this is an area that is very close-knit. We have setbacks of 0.15 to 0.45. On Rabina, we have setbacks of 0.12 to 0.41. And on Winona, to the west, we have setbacks of 0.5 to 0.47. So this too, again, is characteristic to this neighborhood. So I read through as I mentioned previously, I did read through the letters, and I know everyone's flabbergasted at what's transpired here. We also have to understand the owners. They're in quite distress of what has happened. The home was demolished by order of the fire marshal to the city. So the city came in and they had demolished the home. The way they demolished, the way the home was. Sorry.
We don't know what that was.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
The way the home was demolished was almost like if you can, you know, for lack of better words, like an implosion. So it all went into the basement. So now having City of Toronto staff present and viewing at the property, the only way to clean up this property is excavating the property, because there's so much debris that has happened here when the house was ordered, because it was unsafe. As you saw from some of the pictures that some of the neighbors have shared with you. So you'll see all the debris, and it all goes into the basement. So this has to be excavated. Unfortunately, they cannot touch this property unless they have a permit. And this is now, you know, we're here today. The owners, they are literally beside themselves as to what happened. You know, they've lost a lot in this home, and we would like to rectify the matter and work together with the neighbors. And I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Okay, I have. So was the house had a fire and then was ordered to be demolished because the neighbors all said there was an explosion?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this was an explosion. This was an explosion that was investigated by the Fire Marshal's Office, City of Toronto. Unfortunately, at this time, I don't have any of that, but it was an explosion. That is correct.
So, but the house was still standing to some extent, and the whole thing was ordered demolished.
Mr. Chair, yes, that is correct. The house was still standing, albeit, and then the fire marshal, because it was not structurally sound, it was ordered to be demolished.
And I take it that from what you said, nobody has yet determined the cause of the explosion.
They have determined that it was a gas explosion. But as for the other, the fire marshal has shared all details with the insurance companies and whatnot. I'm not at liberty, I'm not at liberty to share any of that information. My clients, the owners of this home, are not held liable for this. I want the neighbors to know that, because when I read through the letters, I was a little taken aback, because, they're at a great loss too, right? This is something that, they were quite taken aback by this, and, they're very stressed over this. This is a lot of money that they've lost, all their belongings and everything. So everyone's being affected here, and I empathize with the neighbors, and moreover, and more so with the owners themselves.
So were your clients living in the house?
The son was, yes. And it was Christmas Eve, and he was at his family's for dinner.
Fortunately.
Yeah.
So were they was your client's family the developer of the site?
I believe they were working with a contractor.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
Chair?
because the neighbors seem to have ascribed fault to your client, and it doesn't sound like it was their fault.
And that's, through you, Mr. Chair, that's what I read, which I don't think it's fair, that they're being painted with that brush. I don't think that's fair at all.
Okay, Larry?
Chair, so the building that was there before, it was a 3-story as well?
That is correct.
And it was built with, as of right, there was no variances for it?
That is correct.
So how is this proposal, with the exception of the variances you are bringing today, is this basically a similar design and size?
This is a similar, yes, it is.
Okay, so this is a 3-story, it was a 3-story. Okay.
Correct.
Great, thank you.
Okay. All right, Valerie Dalton.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Valerie did leave the meeting.
She what?
She left the meeting.
She left. Okay. All right. We're in committee, unless you have any further questions for Ms. Evangelista. Okay. Yes, Sahir.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. We only have 2 variances in front of us, and neither of them are excessive. So as far as variance requests are concerned, I think this is quite acceptable. My only addition to this in a form of a condition would be that the proposed driveway, which I'm going to assume they haven't gotten, they're still going to be constructing a driveway, that if the driveway will be produced out of permeable materials. There are balconies and terraces, but the ones at the rear pose no privacy issues. So I'd like to move forward with the motion with just that one condition about the driveway.
Okay. Do you have a seconder? Larry, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you. Number 28. 254 Cottingham Street. And the purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2.5-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a 1-story rear addition with a basement, a 3rd floor side dormer, and a new 2nd-story deck over the 1-story addition. Also to construct a rear ground floor patio and a basement level patio in the front yard. The existing 1-story rear addition will be demolished. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have a staff report from Urban Forestry and correspondence and concern from 246 Cottingham Street. Marco Vieira.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Marco Vieira. I'm the agent of the designer for this application. I'm at 257 Dunraven Drive.
Okay, so there's some opposition. We need a presentation.
Certainly. Through you, Mr. Chair, the application before you is to demolish an existing 1-story rear addition and rebuild that addition to the extent of the back of the house. We're asking for 2 minor variances. One is for depth variance of 18.61 meters. That variance is only at the 1st floor level, as there are no changes to the footprint to the 2nd and 3rd floor. The proposed depth, in our opinion, provides no negative impact to adjacent properties, is very similar in terms of the footprint to the property to our west side and also to the property to the east. Variance number 2 is for a proposed FSI, which would propose 1.1 for the lot area. The existing is currently already over the allowed FSI. The proposed FSI for this addition, in terms of removing part of the existing addition and rebuilding the new addition, is 7.16 square meters. We find that this is very minor, not impactful to adjacent properties, and we ask that the committee consider the application before you, and we ask for the approval of these 2 minor variances, and the application, in my opinion, does meet the 4 tests.
Okay, any questions, panel? Okay, James Marks.
Hello, James, you've been unmuted.
I believe Harry Figov is objecting to this.
Mr. Marks?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
My
My name
Figov could speak.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Harry Figov. I live at 246 Cottingham Street, which is about 3 or 4 doors down from 254, and I just have a few points I'd like to bring up.
But just a minute, Mr. Pigov. I have on my notes that James Marks was going to speak for you.
No, I just said he would be attending with me. I know we've both got, in total, we've got 5 minutes in total, so if I need any legal help, he will come in, but it's really for me to speak, Mr. Clay.
All right, go ahead.
Well, I have just 2 things here. One is that in terms of this FSI, when I look at it, in terms of the requested variance, is that it's almost double the legal density, 1.11 times the area of the lot, whereas the allowable area is 0.69. So I just want to ask if that's normal. And the second thing is that the application on page 1, the 3rd line says also to construct a rear ground floor patio and a basement patio, level patio in the front yard. But I do see, my question is, when they talk about front yard, is that street facing? It appears to me. And I understand when I spoke to Madame Sanders, and she was very helpful, When I asked her about the long neighborhood guidelines, rationale for support, she says it doesn't apply here. But a front street-facing patio, my question is how does it fit into the aesthetics of the neighborhood? And nobody else that I'm aware of has a front street-facing patio on the street. So those are my two areas of concern: the density 1.1 times, 1.11 times, and the front patio. If the representative could answer this for me, please. Thank you, Mr. Clay.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ferreira?
Well, I'm sorry, one other point, Mr. Clay. I'd like him to answer whether they've started construction on the front patio, because there is work going on there.
All right, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So just to address the two comments, the proposed patio is at the basement level. It's being treated as just a large oversized window well to allow natural light into the basement. It's not very much visible from the street because the existing street is quite lower. It's about 4 or 5 risers lower than the front yard. So that patio is screened. It's not visible from the street, so it does not change the massing or the architectural fabric along the street. The patio in the back, it's just at grade. It's just an interlocking surface in the rear yard. With regards to the FSI, the existing dwelling is currently over the FSI. It is already at 1.07%. The change in the FSI is merely to square off the addition at the back of the house. So it's essentially 3.8% being added to the side of, let's call it the existing rear portion of the dwelling that is currently with a 1-story that houses the stairs. So I don't believe that this is a negative impact or an example of overbuilding, because it's complies with the side yard setbacks. It doesn't change the overall massing. And there is existing work being done in the dwelling currently because we have an existing permit for changes to the front porch and interior alterations to the existing 2.5-story dwelling.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions? Yes, Larry.
Thanks, Chair. So it doesn't. I couldn't see anything that had any comment or support from the adjacent semi. Have you spoken with the adjacent semi owner?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have. We initially had discussions actually when we first obtained the building permit for the interior alterations, where we explained the scope of work. I believe the adjacent neighbor does not have any concerns with the proposed addition, as our addition is essentially almost in line with his existing 1-story addition, also on property line. I am not aware of any concerns with regards to our proposal.
Okay,
they do speak to one another, and they have kept the communication openly through the renovation, but I am not aware of any concerns.
Just looking at your site plan, if you pull up the site plan, you've got 2 renderings for the rear. And I see, before Zahir gets to it, I see that you've got some permanent planter on one side of the 2nd-story balcony, but it's open and clear the other 2 sides. So it was your plan to do, particularly the one on the other side, make that privacy?
If you're referring to the west side of adding privacy screen on that side, we would have no objection. We did the planters on the east side. That was already to position the railings away from the edge so that it maintains privacy and it minimizes the overlook. So adding privacy screen on the west side is definitely not a problem at all.
Yeah, that's good. I think the planting is a good idea on that side too. But you also, the rendering shows a 3rd-story balcony, and it looks like it's just regular fencing. So the risk when you come in front of us is that we actually pick up on these other things as well. So the 3rd-story balcony, can you similarly put privacy screening on each side?
I think that's something I can mention to our clients. That is an existing 3rd-floor balcony that exists there now. I believe some of the neighbors already have some screening on their side. So we would have no objections to adding screening to the side that does not have it. I think it's the east side, actually. So the current neighbor has screening on this, would be their west side, would be our east side. So we could easily add to our east side so that basically the view is focused to the rear opposed to the sides.
Yeah, I think that would be desirable.
Yes, sir, here.
Just another quick question, again, related to the site plan. You've got, looks like concrete walkway to be removed, but there's also proposed concrete walkway. I'm not sure exactly how long that concrete walkway is, what the extent of it is, but instead of concrete, is there any possibility that you would be able to use permeable pavers, at least more porous?
We can't hear you, sir.
I'm having a hard time.
I'm sorry, I keep forgetting to get my mic on. On the site plan, you've got proposed concrete walkway. Would it be possible to utilize permeable pavers instead of concrete?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can do that. I think it would be only for the portion of the walkway along the side of the addition that is being added. The rest of the walkway along the side is in existence. It just kindly curves towards the 1-story. So that portion that's being added at the back of the house, I can definitely include that.
I'll make reference to the proposed portion being permeable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, any further questions? Okay, do we have a motion? Yes, Yim?
I can make a motion. I think that actually this is very moderate, more alteration. I can see that the physical form is just filling that corner. It's not going to create any large impact. And with the condition of forestry number 2, and also is it the 3rd floor balcony have a screen on the east side, and also the new proposed walkway to be permeable paver. I would like to move for approval.
Okay, second, here, all in favor? You have your approval, thank you. Number 29. 177 Gamble Avenue, purpose of the application to convert the existing 1-story ancillary building, a detached garage, into a garden suite with storage above in the rear of the property.
Did you say Gamble Avenue?
Yeah, number 30.
Am I in the wrong spot?
Didn't we do 29?
Oh, there's Adelaide, 783 Adelaide.
I think you're right. I went to the wrong one. 29, 783 Adelaide Street West. And the purpose of the application to legalize and maintain the existing 3-story semi-detached dwelling with rear 2nd and 3rd-story balconies and a rear basement walkout. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have email correspondence from transportation, and we have a report from urban forestry. Okay, and we have Mr. Bellini.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm still attempting to reach Frank.
You haven't found him?
He's in the meeting, but he's not giving me the option to unmute him, so I'm giving him a call now.
Okay, you're just calling him now?
Yes.
Okay, all right, but we may have to move on to the next one, like I said. Next one's 177 Campbell.
Your discussion.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe move on to the next one while I try to reach him.
Okay, number 30, 177 Campbell Avenue. The purpose of this application is to convert the existing 1-story ancillary building, a detached garage, into a garden suite with storage above in the rear of the property. And only documents are documents supplied by the applicant. And now we need Kaveh Abnaz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the committee, for the time. So, as it is mentioned, it's just an existing ancillary one-story building.
Mr. Abnaz, can we have your name and
Yeah.
address for the record?
Yeah, so it's Kaveh Abnaz, and the address is 180 West Beaver Creek Road.
Okay, so this seems to be very straightforward. I'm going to take it into committee to consider. Do you have anything you want to say before we go into committee?
No, thanks. As you mentioned, it's very straightforward.
Yep. Okay, any questions, panel comments, or do we have a motion? Yes, Sahir.
Thank you, Chair. This is indeed a very straightforward application, and the impact on neighbors is definitely not there. I'd like to move a motion to approve. I don't believe there are any, there are no conditions.
All right, do we have a seconder?
Hi, it's Frank. Leave a message.
All right, Yim, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so do we have to wait somewhat for Adelaide Street?
Yes, let's move on to item number 31, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Item number 31, 1409 Gerard Street East. Purpose of the application is to construct a new 5-story mixed-use building with a front 4th-story terrace, a rear 5th-story terrace, and a complete 6-story roof terrace. There will be 6 dwelling units on the lot. With this application, we have materials supplied by the applicant. We have a staff report from Urban Forestry. We have support from 1390 Gerard Street East. And we have here, yes, Mark Nawrocki.
Good afternoon, committee. My name's Mark Nawrocki. I am the architect and the agent for the owner representing this property. Just wanted to briefly say that as architects, we are happy to work with the developer and owner of this property to bring much needed residential housing to this area of the city. As such, we are proposing this design, which incorporates 6 residential units and 1 commercial unit on the ground floor. Also, it's important to note that we have worked diligently for the last 3 years with the city planning department to very carefully develop this mid-rise building design by following the city's mid-rise development guidelines model while the proposal was under site plan control at the time.
So,
That's it. If there are any questions, please.
Well, there's some opposition, so if you have anything more to say about the particular variances, I think you should say it now.
Nothing comes to mind at this point. The variances are what they are. We worked with the city with these variances, and they were we addressed the variances at the time of the development of the project and the proposal, and they remained right up to the end. So there was no harsh review of these variances.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to Govind Matani.
Hi, my name is Govind Matani, and I am the owner of 1411 Gerard Street East.
Right. Can you tell us, so what are your comments with respect to this application?
Well, Mr. Chair, I have no comment. I mean, it's a good thing that they are building that. It's good for the street. And because I happen to be the adjacent owner of this building, and I was planning to build a couple of stories on my existing one-story building on 1411. And it is.
You have reached ARPA Design.
Yeah, my design is in process right now, and it should be, I'm consulting with my architect and engineer, and it should be done within
Yes,
shortly.
but, Sir, I'm glad you're doing that, but we're dealing with 1409 Gerard Street East. Do you have, so I take it you don't have any objections to this project?
No, I don't have objection as long as, when I'm putting in submitting my plans, I should be given, subject to all the approval that they need, city needs. I will abide by that. I'm trying to make 2 stories on top of the existing building right now.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Naraki, that was not an objection, so we don't need to hear from you again. So, panel, do you have any questions or comments? Zahir?
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to ask the agent about the, I think it's the fifth and sixth story decks. The privacy screening around it, but I don't know what the height of those screens are. I wonder if you could elaborate.
The terrace level?
Yeah, I think it's the 4th and 6th, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Off my page.
Yeah, the terrace is on the 4th, and we have planters there for screening, and there's a guard for safety purposes, actually a transparent guard to let light in and view, but if for safety purposes, it's at the height that's required by code.
I suppose I'm already concerned about privacy issues. I suppose not so much on the east and west sides, but perhaps the south side. So I imagine the rear of the building overlooks some residences, whereas the east and west are commercial.
Yes, the rear looks onto a laneway, and then to residences beyond, correct.
Do you think there might be overlooked issues, privacy issues?
Didn't give it too much thought, except to say that because the area is quite heavily landscaped in the back there to begin with.
I imagine it's just the couple of homes, number 116, I believe, 112, 110, Hiawatha Road.
Yes.
They'd be impacted, I think.
We can certainly add the privacy screens, not to really worry about it.
It would be just on the south side, not on the east and west.
Yes, understood.
Thank you.
Chair, just a quick question. So this is a great proposal. It's the kind of density we need on these kinds of avenues, so it's to be commended. I do note that this is probably going to be the highest, tallest building on this stretch of Gerard, which is fine, but you do have a rooftop patio, rooftop terrace, and I'm going to presume that is the amenity space for all of your units?
Absolutely.
Just the same sort of thing. So you've got a parapet wall there, it looks like?
Correct.
How tall?
3'6", which is the building code standard.
That's code. Rooftop patios, particularly when it's amenity space for 5 units, has the potential, you do have a fairly significant residential area to your south, as Zahir pointed out. I wonder if we could, is there anything you can do to kind of, it's not overlook as much because you're so high, I'm not worried about that, but it's sound. Could you put some planters or something up there to do some sound attenuation?
Yes, we have intentions to landscape the top, the roof terrace. Also keep in mind, sir, that the terrace or the roof is actually set back from the rear and the front.
Yep.
And
I get that. So that's why I'm not overly concerned about overlook. But our experience on this committee is rooftop terraces are generally attract a lot of negative attention from surrounding residences, and often it's the noise. When a social occasion happens or people are up there recreating. So I'd like to just suggest maybe we could put a condition that has some landscaping, some planters, some flora and fauna up there that would help soften the noise generation.
Absolutely,
Okay.
100% agreed,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, that's great, thanks.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, we do have one other registered speaker in concern. It was a late registration. If we could just hear from them briefly.
Okay,
We'll unmute them now.
all right, go. So would you
Hello?
call on them, please?
Yes, hello?
Yes, can we have your name and address, please?
Yes. Yes, my name is Gulshan Kumari. I'm the owner for the 1407 George Street East.
Right?
So I have just the concern regarding that that the foundation is ensured will be secure, so the construction won't affect the integrity of my building.
So we're having trouble hearing you. I think you have another device going on.
Okay, sorry about that. Yes, so I have concern about the during the construction that the ensure the foundation will be secure and the construction won't affect the integrity of my building. And as we have since he's taking a 0 setback, which just wanted to show that it doesn't affect my foundation when they're doing construction.
So we're the Committee of Adjustments. We deal with minor variances from the zoning bylaw. We don't deal with construction issues. That's the building department, and they will. And so when the applicant applies for a building permit, they will look into the kinds of issues that you're talking about. But we have no jurisdiction to deal with it at all.
Okay. Second thing that I wanted to address was it's great that they're doing a 5-story, but I'm just saying that it's based on our neighborhood. All the buildings are around 2 to 3 story, which meets the look and the appearance of our neighborhood. It's always too narrow building, and it's going 5-story high, which also is looking all over. It affects some of the privacy of all over, right?
Yeah, okay. Any other concerns?
No, that's basically it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Naraki? Mr. Naraki, are you still there?
Yes, we're just gonna unmute him now.
Oh, okay.
Mark, you're unmuted.
Okay. Yes, just in answer to the concern about the 3 stories, is we followed the guidelines, the mid-rise guidelines to a T with respect to the massing and the setback of the building. So it's terraced for a reason from the front, from the Gerard Street side. So you do have a 3-story high area until we come to the terrace, and then it's set back considerably in order to get up to the 5th floor. So we've respected the 3-story contextually for the neighborhood, and I think it's in keeping with the tone of the neighborhood.
Yeah, and you're not going to be the last one that builds 5 stories.
I don't think so.
Okay. So, all right. Any other questions, panel? Okay, there's a huge development on Wellington Street, west of Spadina. I think there's 7 buildings called The Well, and I was walking by there, and it's the first time I've seen a really set back buildings where they I don't know how many stories they go up, but then they set it back, and then it sets back a little more, and it's really effective because you don't see, it's not the same massing. So I think that this building is probably, in terms of mass, is probably okay because it is set back. Okay, so do we have any comments or a motion? Yes, Larry.
Thanks, Chair. I would agree with you. I think this is a thoughtful design, as I said, but in Gerard Street is one of those avenues that can certainly use some more intensification and density. I think that's an excellent proposal. I think I'd like to move approval of this application, subject to forestry condition number 1, and I'd also like a condition that sound attenuation materials be used on the rooftop terrace.
That broad, I guess. Can't do much.
I'll leave it open as to what they use,
Yeah.
but I just want to soften the sound.
Okay, yes, here, you second that motion? All right, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can go back to item number 29, because we've gotten in contact with Frank Bellini.
Okay. Okay, we're back to number 29. I think we've introduced it.
Hello?
Yeah, Mr. Bellini?
Yes, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I'm the agent for the owner. I'm at 25 John Street in Markham, and I'm here to speak on this on the owner's behalf. I think it's pretty straightforward. We have a couple of variances that are, I believe, are minor in nature, especially the first one is an existing condition, and the second one is just less than 10% greater than what is allowed. So I hope you find it minor in nature, and also want to point out that the neighbors have no objection on either side.
Okay.
Here to answer any questions you have.
Yes, Larry.
Was this just an oversight from the previous approval, particularly the FSI, or did you build it a little bit bigger than you had originally proposed?
Well, to be perfectly honest, that on site they made adjustments thinking that it wouldn't affect the committee original committee approval, and upon completing the revised drawings as requested by the inspector, these were caught. So that's what happened.
Was it? Is it just a larger room, or what actually contributed to the?
They lengthened the part of the second floor and the third floor. So they reduced the original third floor roof deck, and they increased the first floor and went right to the edge and provided a balcony as well.
So the overall footprint didn't change. It was just some extensions on the upper floors.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so do we have a motion, Larry?
Sure, Chair. I think this is a not unreasonable minor little variance, and while we don't condone that sort of stuff, it seems like it's a very modest oversight and not affecting the overall footprint of the structure from its original approval, and has no additional impact on the neighbors of the neighborhood. So I think it's fine. I'll move approval of this application, subject to forestry 1 and 2.
And Yim, you second that motion? All right, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you, sir. Okay, so now we have to move to the next. Wrong one. Okay, number 32, 188 Beatrice Street. Purpose of the application is to convert the existing 2-story detached dwelling from 1 unit into 2 units by installing 1 secondary suite on the 2nd floor and constructing a new front 2nd-story balcony. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, and we have email correspondence from Community Planning. And we have, yes, Richard Sally.
Yes, sir. That's me. I'm Richard Sally, 188 Beatrice. I'm the owner.
Okay. All right, so it looks reasonably straightforward. Do you have anything you want to say to the panel before we go into committee?
After watching your proceedings, I think if you have any questions for me, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I'll acquiesce to your judgment.
Well, that's wise. How far north is 188?
How far north of College?
Is it north of College?
North of College, correct.
Because I grew up at Beatrice in College. I was just curious.
Oh, cool.
So,
Okay.
Sorry, Chair. So this is just internal?
Yeah.
Changes? You're just adding another secondary suite on the 2nd floor?
Correct. And there's a front balcony being added.
Okay.
Which is kind of common in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I'm adding a 2nd front entrance.
Where?
Adjacent to the existing front
Oh,
entrance.
so like on the porch, like?
Yeah, just side by side. It'll probably end up looking like one of those 5-foot double entrances.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to streamline it as much as I can.
Yeah, yeah. And that's not uncommon in that neighborhood either?
No, not at all.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yim,
Are we ready? I'm ready to move a motion.
go ahead.
Yes, I know the neighborhood very well too, like this front entrance, and it's a good area also to add another unit. I think I will move for, and the variances they're asking, I think they're quite minor in nature, and I will move for approval. There aren't any conditions, Madam.
Okay, second that, said here. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you very
See what
much.
happens? When you show up in person, this is just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll have to say I enjoyed this process immensely because it's very edifying, and you guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Yeah.
Come back.
You only get one approval today.
Okay, number 33. '61 Kippendavy Avenue. The purpose of this application is to construct a new 3-story semi-detached dwelling with a front covered porch and steps, a rear ground floor porch and steps, and a 3rd-story rear rooftop terrace. Also to construct a new rear yard ancillary building detached shed. The existing 2-story semi-detached dwelling will be demolished. The material, material with this application consists of material supplied by the applicant, a staff report from Urban Forestry, correspondence and support from 3 properties on Kippendavy, as well as 4 form letters from 4 other properties on Kippendavy. Okay, Osran Stambuk.
Hello, Mr. Chair. This is Osran Stambuk. I'm at 15 Moreland Road.
Okay, so you have no opposition. This seems to be relatively straightforward. So is there anything you want to say before I take it into committee?
No, Mr. Chair, and I'm glad to be able to provide you a straightforward application.
Thank you. Okay, any questions, panel? Okay.
You can ask the screening question.
Yim?
Just one very quick question. You have the setback at 0, variance number 4. Is that an existing condition? You're just using the existing wall, or?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. It's an existing condition. It's referring to the south wall that is shared on the property line. I'm not entirely 100% sure why that's a variance, but I would leave that to the zoning examiner who flagged it for us, and so we have to get it approved because we are extending. We're basically following that property line. We're building on that same point.
This is a semi, right? So you assume that 0 setback is expected. That's why I'm sort of curious about why there's such a variance.
Yes, me too, actually.
So here?
Just a quick question. Just a quick question with regard to your 3rd floor rear terrace. I notice on the rear elevation that you've got side walls that are higher than the front wall. Can you just tell me what the height is? Would it be 1.5 meters?
Let me just have the plans here in front of me. So 3rd floor terrace, you're talking about I think I drew in those sidewalls specifically because of anticipated privacy concerns, but we can put a condition on if you so choose to grant approval that they should be at least 1.5 meters tall. I believe they're even taller as it stands, but we can say 1.5 meters.
Perfect. I think that would be appropriate.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, no further questions. Do we have a motion? Yes, here.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a fairly straightforward and reasonable request. There's a forestry 1 and 2 condition, and if we can just pardon me, have the 3rd floor rear terrace side walls, and I believe they will be.
We can't hear you.
Speak up.
Sorry again. So there's a
Have
forestry
you got your
1.
mic on?
I keep forgetting to turn it on. There's a forestry 1 and 2 condition, and the only other condition that I'd like to attach is that the side walls of the 3rd floor rear terrace be built to a height of 1.5 meters.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Yim, all in favor? Have your approval? Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 34, 52 Hiltz Avenue. The purpose of the application to alter the existing 2-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear 2-story addition to replace the existing rear 1-story portion of the dwelling, a rear ground floor covered deck, a rear 2nd-story deck, and a new front porch and stairs. Also to enclose the front veranda for additional habitable space. With this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant. We have staff reports from Urban Forestry and Community Planning, and we have 3 form letters in support by neighbors on Hiltz Avenue. Okay, so now we have Mr. Kiefer.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Jason Kiefer, and I live at 496 St. James Street, London, Ontario. I'm representing Alicia Shaw, the owner of 52 Hills.
Okay, This is reasonably straightforward, sir. There's no opposition, so.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Can we have Jason just go walk us through, for public record, the two changes that are being proposed? And we'll put the red line version up on the screen.
Okay.
Sure, yeah. So the first change is regarding floor space index. It was originally calculated at 1.14. However, the basement is currently undergoing underpinning. Once complete, the floor area will be no longer count towards the FSI, and that'll bring us down to 0.83. And the second change is regarding the soft landscaping in the rear yard. Planning is recommended that we increase the soft landscaping. We originally had 30%, and we've maximized the area to 37%.
And how many meters?
How many square meters?
Yes.
That would be 17.26.
Thank you. Okay.
Chair, can you just show us on the revised site plan where the additional soft landscaping is? We pull up the, great, thanks.
So it would be that square area to the north of the deck at the end of the parking area. Right there, yeah, that's right. And I should also note that that my client's not planning on paving the parking area, so when the car is not there, it's going to effectively operate as soft landscaping.
Is it gravel?
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen.
Sorry, is it gravel or that's what the proposal is?
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, I'm not being clear, I don't think. Is it currently gravel or are you planning to make it gravel?
Oh, no, planning to make it gravel.
Okay.
Currently, it's just the backyard.
Oh, so that's not a parking spot right now?
No.
Okay.
So would that increase, I mean, it's not soft landscaping, but it is permeable. So that's where he's gonna park?
That's right.
Okay, so that would be a substantial area. Okay, thank you. Any further questions? All right, do we have a motion?
Sure, Chair, I'm happy to take this one. I think this is a good proposal. I don't think there's any adverse impact on the neighbors or the neighborhood. It's a small rear two-story ad. I'm pleased, I think we're all pleased to see the increase in soft landscaping. I forgot to ask, is the second, Zahir
Deck,
usually gets
yeah,
this,
I'm
right?
just looking.
Is the second, can we go out and ask him if the
Yeah.
second story deck is screened?
Yeah,
No, we have screening on the ground floor deck, but we would not be opposed to adding screening to the second floor.
Yeah, let's
if,
do that on both sides, so that your neighbors won't yell at you.
Right.
And so we'll put, go back in. So I move approval subject to forestry condition number 2, planning conditions with respect to the soft landscaping, but I think that's captured in the amended variance. Sabrina, is it? Yeah, so we don't need that. And we'll screen the second floor deck on both sides, and I'd like to put a condition in that the parking area be constructed of gravel, just to make sure that That's what we understood.
Maybe you wanna say permeable.
Permeable materials, sure, that's fine. That would include
Give 'em
gravel,
a
I guess.
little leeway.
Sorry, Larry?
And say
Yes,
that
ma'am.
as amended. Larry?
Yes, as amended, yeah.
As amended.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, Larry. I think you still need the community planning condition because it says tied to the site plan.
Tied to the revised plans?
Yeah, that's what it says. It's got dates and. Yeah. So I think you still need that.
Okay. Or we can just tie it to the revised site plan.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. You second the motion?
Sorry,
You?
guys, did you get, that was a lot. Did you, everybody get it? Okay.
Okay, all in favor? You have your approval.
And
Thank
that's,
you.
that's approved as amended.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, we're just gonna ensure that Mr. Clay has cameras on, as well as Mr. Byatt. Your cameras are
Yeah.
on for
Oh
some
my
reason,
goodness,
I
I
don't know why.
think I just lost the net connection,
Yeah.
that's why.
Okay.
Oh, did we lose internet?
Oh,
He
yeah.
thought that
your-
it
your
might bounce
computers-
us out every once in a while.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Chair, we might have to take a break while we
Yeah,
get our
I
internet
think maybe we
back.
should take a 5-10 minute break.
Yeah?
Okay.
To go back to the net.
Yeah.
City of Toronto, no internet connection.
Yeah, you just, you know what you do? Just go back and disconnect and connect again.
Disconnect,
And it,
connect. Oh, now it's trying to connect.
yeah. So we have to, yeah, so, yeah.
Did they give you a login?
No, it's just, there's no password, so you just, on this one,
Oh, yeah.
this City of Toronto, so I disconnected, then
Oh.
reconnected again, so then you get to
Yeah,
this.
yeah, now you're good, now you're good.
Now we have to log back into WebEx, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think so, yeah. You can tell, so see this little icon there? That
Yes.
That was.
Yep, the bars, yep,
Yeah, if that's that globe with an X over it, that's where you'd have to redo this.
okay.
But right now it's good.
Well, yeah, the tech guy said it might boot you out later.
Yeah, it seems to do that sometimes. For whatever reason, like I know in committee room 2 you can hardwire in.
Oh,
and
right.
You can just have a cable, which makes life a lot easier.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back in action.
Okay.
Mhm.
And okay, then you should hit well, yeah, start video.
Start video. Start video.
Oh, yeah, it should be good. That's you.
But another application is using your camera.
It's this application.
Really?
It
So am I in twice now?
No, you're in, I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure you're in correctly. Like you're in.
Oh, there, I'm up
the
there.
right way, yeah. You just wanna hit that. But, yeah, it should work.
Okay.
Okay.
Just don't touch anything. Don't touch anything.
Where's AI when you need it? I'm only kidding. I think my lunch is killing me.
Your lunch is killing.
I had a very nice sandwich. It was a eggplant sandwich with chia butter bread. It's very nice. But the acidity.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, you need milk. You need to have a big glass of milk.
That's right.
So, am I the only? Oh, because we're on a break. My little start video button is unresponsive. So it won't, I click on start or stop, it just doesn't want to do anything. Maybe I'll just close everything and start over again. Leave webinar. Oh, there I am. Ah, there I am.
How many more do we have?
Yeah. No, I'm good. Thanks, Sabrina.
Yeah, I'll have a little more. Just give me half a glass, please. Thank you.
Is this already built? Wynette? Is it already built?
It must be because I'm looking at
I mean, they talk about, well, this is part of their plans. It's in their, it's in their material. So it looks like it's already been constructed. Yeah, there's the photo, yeah. I mean, doesn't seem to be a problem, but.
Okay. Can we start? Okay. Jacob, can we start? Where is Yim? Did we lose Yim? Oh, there she is. Okay, so let's start. Okay, the next item is number 35, 389 Wynette Avenue. The purpose of the application to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by constructing a new front ground covered porch with stairs. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant only. Mr. Benskowski.
Hello, Jonathan, you've been unmuted.
Good afternoon, committee. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon. Can we have your name and address?
Jonathan Miskowski, 301 Keewatin Avenue.
Okay, so you have no opposition. This one looks reasonably straightforward. Is there anything you want to say before we go into committee?
I would just say there's a very minimal front yard setback of 3 meters, which contributes to the reduction of the landscaping in addition to a right-of-way between the dwelling to the south and this dwelling, which really doesn't offer any potential for green area there. And that's essentially the variance is caused by, largely by that, and again, that kind of reduced front yard setback.
Okay. All right, panel, any questions? Larry?
Just a quick one, John. Is this, it looks like, is it already built?
So yes, through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Clay, it was built. I did include the permit drawings. It actually isn't much different than what was actually as the building permit that was done as of right. Really, the only change was the stair was built a little longer than what was on the building permit, but it is a licensed parking area that would remain. So again, from the building permit to where we were today, it's not much of a difference.
Yeah, I'd agree. We might have to change the purpose, Sabrina, just to legalize?
Legalize and maintain.
Or maintain or permit?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to permit.
Permit.
Okay. All right, so, any further questions, or do we have a motion? Larry?
Yeah, sure, thanks, Chair. I think this is very straightforward. It's a really quite a modest front porch or front entryway. And as Mr. Benkowski said, it replicates kind of what was there before, so I think it's quite supportable. And I'll move approval with no conditions.
No conditions. Yim, you second the motion? All in favor? Have your approval. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, I moved it was an amended application, pardon me.
Yeah. Okay, number 36, 32 Glen Cedar Road. Purpose of the application is to construct a new two-story detached dwelling with a rear yard parking space and to maintain the existing driveway and curb cut on the north side of the lot line abutting Markdale Avenue. With this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant. We have email correspondence from transportation. We have a staff report from Urban Forestry and support from 34 Glen Cedar Road. Yu Chu Su.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon. Can we have your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Yu-Chu Su, and my address is 360 Dufferin Street.
Okay, so this looks to be reasonably straightforward. Do you have anything, and we're going to take it into committee, do you have anything you want to say before we go into committee?
Yes, I agree this is a pretty straightforward application, but I just want to reiterate that this application was previously taken to a committee on July 13 of 2022, and the reason why we're back here today is because we submitted for a building permit update application, which produced one additional variance than what was previously approved for, and that is variance number 1 regarding driveway width, where we're only asking to keep an existing driveway, which is 5.41 meters, which is wider than the 3.2 meters allowed. All other variances relating to the house proper were all previously approved for in the last hearing. And I can review those variances if you like, but if you think it's straightforward, I'm happy to end here.
So they were all approved?
That's right.
Okay. Okay, panel, do you have any questions? Yim? No? You want to make a motion, Yim?
Yes, I would. I remember this application before because of the very strange site. That's why I remember. I think that this is very straightforward, just catch an extra variance. So I've moved for approval. There's a forestry condition number 2, though. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, do we have a seconder? Sahir, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Number 37. 31 Bansley Avenue. Purpose of the application to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by constructing a front one-story addition with a front porch, a front second-story addition with a front deck, a rear one-story addition, and a rear second-story deck. The existing rear ground floor sunroom will be demolished. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. Leah Wiljar.
Yes, here. Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, yes, Leah Wilger. My address is 215 Withrow Avenue. I'm the agent for the owner on this application.
Okay, so we have no opposition. This looks reasonably straightforward. Do you have anything you want to say before I take it into committee?
No, not too much. If you don't need a presentation, just that it's a irregularly shaped site. We are replacing existing front and rear one-story extensions with new ones. It actually improves the side yard setback from what's existing there and respects the right of way, which currently there's a little overage on the right of way. So it's actually improving that condition.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Larry?
Chair, so just a quick, your request for length is almost 3 meters beyond what's allowed, and maybe you could just speak to, is that a function of the existing condition or the irregular shaped lot, or what do you attribute that extra length to?
Yeah, the extra length is partly due to the shape of the site. So the building it's the front and rear extensions are not the full width, so the length provides the extra area. As well, the length is being requested because this is to provide a age in place kind of situation and barrier-free access with all of the living spaces on the ground floor. So the front entry is a little bit longer because we're putting in a barrier-free lift and enough space for barrier-free access, both in front of and at the top of the lift. So that required a little bit of extra space at the front, and then again, because we're putting all the living space on the ground floor for the owners, that meant looking for a little extra space on the 1-story rear extension. So the length is really both front and rear are 1 story, so it's only for the ground floor that we're talking about the extra length.
And your neighbors are okay, right?
Yeah, they've spoken to the neighbors on both sides, and they have support from their neighbors.
Yes, here.
Just a quick question. I'm looking at the building section drawing A 4.1. You've got a future green roof area. I take it that's the 2nd floor deck, or is that the 3rd floor? No, it must be the 2nd floor deck. And then you've got an existing roof on the 3rd level. I think the purpose talks about third, second, and I'm sorry, bear with me. I'll try to just look at the purpose again. A rear 1-story and rear 2nd-story deck. So the 2nd-story deck, I think, is the one that's of concern. When I looked at the drawing, it looks like you may have an elevated guardrail or privacy screening piece. Am I correct on that one?
The rear is not actually the one where the variance is. It's the front one, and that's the front deck, which is over a roof space of the ground floor. So we wanted to have a small deck to step out onto there, but because the roof was a certain size, it was a little bit bigger than what's permitted. The one at the back, we've kept the actual deck area to the maximum size. The rest of the roof is being shown as we're saying future green roof, but that is the intention, just to have a planted roof area. And that's a parapet around the deck for maintenance access, so it's safe.
So at this point in time, would this be accessible to the residents, homeowners, as a deck to utilize?
The rear deck?
Yeah.
There's a small area. If you go back to the 2nd floor plan, I think that would demonstrate
Maybe
it.
I'm looking at the wrong diagram. So when I'm looking at the building section A 4.1, the area that says future roof, green roof area, that's at the front of the house, or that's the rear of the house?
That's the rear of the house.
Yeah,
that's
so
the rear.
That's the one I'm thinking about. If it's accessible as a deck or a terrace of some sort.
If you can go back to the 2nd floor plan, A 2.3, I believe. No.
Sorry, which one would that be?
Yes, that's the one. This is the one here. This is the 2nd floor plan.
All right.
So you can see there's a small deck area, which you step out at the back.
Yeah, so the deck is actually quite small. It's a future green roof separate.
That's right. So the green roof would be maintenance access only.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, any further questions, or do we have a motion? Is that here?
Thank you, Chair. Again, I don't think this one presents any major issues. I'd like to move forward with a motion to approve. I don't think there are any other, no, there aren't any other conditions. I'd like to approve with no conditions attached.
Jim, you second that? All in favor? Have your approval. Thank you. Number 38, 289 McRoberts Avenue. The purpose of the application is to alter the existing one-story detached dwelling by constructing a front veranda, a rear ground floor deck, a front basement addition, a rear basement walkout, and a complete second-story addition. Also, to construct a two-story ancillary building containing a laneway suite in the rear yard abutting the laneway with an east porch, a west basement walkout, and an east second-story balcony. The second level will be cantilevered along the south lot line. With this application, we have materials supplied by the applicant and email correspondence from transportation. So we have Andrew Trotter.
Hi, Nelson, you've been unmuted to speak.
All right. Very good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Nelson Espinola, as the agent and designer for this project, and we are at 1726 St. Clair Avenue West.
Right. Okay. This looks reasonably straightforward. Do you have anything you want to say to the committee before we go, to the panel before we go into committee?
Certainly. The only thing that I would like to point out is that the variance number 9, with regards to the number of parking spaces for the bicycles, it's not really applicable because we do comply with the 2 parking spaces for the bicycles. I have revised the drawings accordingly to indicate the 2 parking spaces. So the variance number 9 is not applicable.
Variance number 9 is not needed?
That's correct.
Okay, so we delete that. Okay. Any questions, panel? All right, so do we, yes, Larry?
No, Chair, I think we could very easily slide into a motion on this one. I thought this was an excellent proposal. There are a number of variances, but they all are minor and cumulatively don't present a negative impact on the surrounding neighborhood or the neighbors, as evidenced by no opposition. I would note also that it's an interesting location because it backs on to, I think, a cemetery, so a lane, then a cemetery. So it's actually a really good location for this kind of an application. Again, not far at all from public transit and major arterial routes. So it just seems to be. I said all that without my microphone on. That was real. It was really good too. I'm sorry. I apologize, Jim. I spoke again without my microphone on. I think I was just complimentary to this application, and I won't go into all detail again, other than it's a great location for a laneway suite. It is on a laneway which abuts a cemetery. It's close to transit and arterial routes. The design of both the existing dwelling and the laneway suite is excellent. There are a number of variances, but individually, they're minor, and cumulatively, they don't have any major impact on the surrounding neighborhood or the neighboring homes. So I think it's a very supportable application. I'd like to move approval with no conditions.
As amended.
As amended, because I believe we're removing number 9?
That's correct.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Great, thanks.
I
Apologies.
second that.
So here you,
Second.
Ian seconded
Oh, sorry.
first, she yelled out second. All right, all in favor? All right, you have your approval, thank you.
Because I have to be loud, I think, so you know that I'm around, I'm here.
That'll teach you next time you come. Okay, next item is number 39, 16 Beechwood Crescent. And that item has already been postponed, so we don't need to deal with it. The item after that is 11, number 40, 11 Radford Avenue. And the purpose of this application is to alter the existing one-story detached dwelling by constructing a second and third-story addition with a new front porch, rear first-story deck, and rear third-story deck. Also to alter the existing ancillary building, a detached garage, by constructing the second-story addition for a new laneway suite abutting the laneway. So with this application, we have material filed by the applicant, one form letter in support and opposition from properties on Bowstead and Radford. Doug Dodovetsky,
That's me, Draghi Dodevsky of 436 Wellington Street, West in Toronto.
right, okay, so we have a list of opponents, so you better give us a presentation.
All right. As you mentioned, we're proposing to add a second and third story addition to the existing bungalow, along with creating a laneway suite over top of the modified garage. We are requesting 4 variances for the main house and 4 variances for the laneway house. The owner of the property is a family friend. He's actually present here right now, who currently lives with his young family on Hewitt Avenue, just 2 streets over. He's been there more than 10 years in that neighborhood, so he's no stranger to Radford Street itself as well. So since the last update on the file, we have communicated with the neighbors. We've had private meetings with 2 of them, the 2 most immediate neighbors, number 9 and number 15. And I'll give you just a quick update as to what happened from those conversations. We've taken the time to understand their concerns, and it turns out that the biggest concern that most of the neighbors on both Bowstead and Radford have had is with accessing their garages and that turning radius on that laneway. So now, before I continue, I wanted to clarify that although the southwest corner of 11 Radford, which is the end of our property just before the turning radius of the laneway, there is no right-of-way or any easements granted to any of the neighbors, which is in contrast to number 15 Radford, where the city in 1930 expropriated the lands to create that laneway. They had expropriated a very corner of 15 Radford to allow for that turning radius. Some of these photos I submitted in my reply to the second letter from the owner of number 15, and I detailed those findings. So we are on a very much on the straightaway where the current garages or ancillary building, it's very much on the straightaway of the laneway. It's before it even starts turning. And in my observation of many vehicles that were passing through, contrary to what the neighbors say, that space from our property is not as required as they claim. But I'll get to that later. We've, just to summarize, in speaking with the most immediate neighbor, Mr. Kaznowski, we have agreed, as pointed out in that
What's
drawing that
his
was submitted.
address?
That's number 15, Radford.
Okay.
With both Mr. and Mrs. Kaznowski, we have agreed to remove that post that was going to support that second level of the ancillary structure, thereby creating a cantilever section, which of course would be done on our own expense to get the engineering and the proper support for that cantilevered section, and to allow everyone else to still traverse on that particular part of our property if need be. So subsequent to that conversation, or that change, I went and I had a meeting with number 15, Mr. and Mrs. Krasnowski, to which they signed that letter of support under no coercion, and later you see the other letters retracting that support and actually accusing of falsifying signatures. So it's one thing to subtract the support, I understand, but it's another thing to accuse us, both Dean and myself, the owner, of falsifying signatures. That's a very serious matter. Further, with the other side, number 9, Mr. Skipper, we've actually had a very healthy dialogue. If anything, his property would be the one that would have the most change, say, in terms of using his property and house from the building of our house. You can see that we're infilling a missing corner of our property. The green is the existing footprint of the bungalow, and we're just infilling a corner and making a rectangular shape. So in conversation with Mr. Skipper was really concerned about access to the property through a mutual easement that ended at the rear of our property. So in conversation with him, we've actually been able to reach a very favorable agreement between both parties, where we would maintain that mutual easement and actually extend it all the way to the end of his property. And in return, Mr. Skipper has rescinded or is withdrawing his letters of objection. He will actually, and from what I understand, he'll be part of the meeting, and he'll attest to that. He'll speak to that himself. Further, we've after the communication with number 9 and also some other neighbors in the neighborhood, we've actually made some further changes to the house, where we've pulled in the 3rd story by 11 inches on both the east and the west sides, and we've also pulled in the west-facing side of the ancillary structure by 4 inches away from the lot line as well. This has resulted in the reduction of 4 of our variances, which I can identify right now, or I've already shared with John Holmesy.
Your time is technically up, but I need you to go on because we have lots of opposition and it's a little complicated. So you go through the variances and tell us the changes that are made.
Sure, there's slight reductions to number 3. So instead of a floor space index of 1.0, we only need 0.93.
And what's the area? We need the square meters as well.
The square meters is, I will tell you in a second, 261.6 square meters, as opposed to 285.8.
Okay, I'm sorry, I lost my computer for a minute. What is the square meters?
261.6.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead.
Further, number 6, the ancillary building will be located not 1.52 meters from the original center line, but 1.62 meters. Then, if I may continue, number 7, the suite will be located 0.10 meters from the side west lot line, not 0 meters. And the last one would be the last variance, number 8, which will change from, the width will change from 8.38 meters to 8.28 meters. These changes, again, mainly resulted from the discussion and dialogue with number 9, Mr. Charles Skipper.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the change on 7, variant 7? I missed that.
I'm sorry, variant 7?
Yes, yes,
Yes, from 0, it will be 0.1.
0.1, okay.
Yes.
All right, do you have anything further you want to say?
No, that's okay. I'll wait for the chance to rebuttal.
Okay.
Chair, can I just ask a quick question beforehand? So, a couple things, just on the laneway. So you have set the laneway sweep back, I think you said 4 inches?
4 inches or 10 centimeters, yes.
So is it your view that that would help cars navigate a little bit better in that area?
If it matters, I don't think that it would make a difference because there's already branches and wires dangling above the laneway itself that would prevent anything taller than a regular vehicle or truck to move through that laneway.
Right.
We were never proposing to encroach on the laneway, and we were also not proposing ever to be any closer than what the current bungalow on that property is to the
Fair enough.
laneway.
Sorry, did you say there's wires that prevent cars from going down
Yeah,
there?
there's wires that, not cars, but anything taller than
So
a truck or like
taller,
a,
yeah,
like a
so,
taller
okay.
vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of the neighbors were concerned about taller
The height,
vehicles.
yeah, which is related to the next question. So you are cantilevering portion of the laneway suite out and removing a post. So that will, I guess, allow the majority of vehicles to go down there, but if you had a tall truck, you'd still probably have the same problem.
Yeah, the problem is they're present right now
I
anyway.
mean, I'll hear from the opposition, but is it
Yeah.
common to have tall trucks back there?
I can't see that because just of the fact that the way the trees have grown, I mean, had tall trucks been making access there, they probably would have broken the branches and there would have been evidence of that. I mean, I've lived on different laneways where tall trucks haven't gone in, but I'm not one to speak for this particular laneway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you talked about I thought you talked about a easement. Did you negotiated an easement?
That's on the east side of the property and that's a walkway between the two houses, between number 9 and number 11.
Okay, so did somebody sign a deed and register it, et
Yeah,
cetera?
there was an easement register on the other side, actually registered, that shows up on the title, on the deed of number 11 Radford. And that's only 57 feet now, and we'll extend that with Mr. Skipper to almost 97 feet. And then the other easement I was speaking about is that easement that I mentioned that the city expropriated is registered in an instrument on the survey of number 15. And it's also contained in one of the letters that I replied back, and I highlighted everything, showing the portion of the corner that actually should be part of that laneway. If the rest of the residents would like more access for the turning radius, they should probably pursue other avenues or other sources in order to gain that part that the city expropriated for that particular laneway.
Okay, so the extension of the walkway easement has not yet been registered.
No, that agreement was made yesterday, and we have it in writing, just a written email writing between us, and a document is being drafted, and that will be enacted shortly after this at some point.
Sorry, you just reminded me.
Thank you.
One question, Don. So that little sliver on 15 that is the city expropriated to allow, like, where they cut off the corner on the laneway, is that currently encumbered at all, or is that, do cars basically use that cutaway to navigate that corner?
I think
Or is there something on it?
I think that the curb that's built on it does encumber on it, and there's also some trees or some vegetation that actually encumbers on it.
Right, so even though it's an easement, basically, it really doesn't allow cars to
It doesn't
navigate
allow
that the
for
way
the
it was
car- I
probably
mean,
intended.
It doesn't allow for the comfort, I guess, for some of the drivers. I've watched and observed cars make that turn without having to touch that curb or go onto our property at all.
Thanks.
Okay, so we'll move on. Stefan Reines.
Through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps maybe we'll hear from those that are in person first,
there
and
are
then,
people
and then
here?
we'll go,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Shall I move from here?
Yes, please. Okay, so anyone here in person, just line up and take turns. And we'll need your first and last name and your address.
Okay, my name is Doug Carroll. I live at 46 Boosted Avenue. Basically, I'm down the alley and around the corner. I use this laneway constantly for coming and going. I have a great deal of photographs to be relevant. Unfortunately, they were not provided yesterday. They document thoroughly the difference between most of the laneway with extensive setbacks and the portion which is being described as not needing a setback, which is about half the width of the other part. It's a very narrow, tight corner. In any event, also the impression that somehow the neighbors have reconciled with this development is entirely false. Individuals may have spoken for themselves and coming to some sort of an agreement. Most of the neighbors, in my opinion, have not. We oppose the bulk of this agreement from end to end, the bulk of this proposal from end to end. In any event, some rebuttal time would be helpful afterwards because of the additional time taken by the presenter after he's finished speaking. Residents at the Committee of Adjustment are in the unusual position of asking that the law be respected and obeyed. We're just asking for the applicable bylaws to apply to the situation. The developer, of course, wants variances for a property that they bought for less money than they would have had to pay for what they're asking the COA to make true. The developer sent a change of plan last night at 11 o'clock at night. I don't see how neighbors could honestly be considered notified of their intentions with a plan being sent by email at 11 o'clock last night to John Holmesby, I think it was. The phrasing of that letter implied some sort of resolution with neighbors, which is not at all the case. I also want to point out that the degree of work probably required for this house may amount to a demolition in all but name. The very extensive work on the foundation, very extensive work on the walls, the requirement for additional walls in order to put up a full 3-story building, that's close, if not effectively, a demolition. So I question whether the basis for this being phrased as a renovation is even legally accurate. In addition, moving on, the laneway suite setback is a matter of law passed in 2021 by council. It's not old, moldy Toronto law from 1940. This stuff was passed by council in 2021, and this was after a review of the laneway situation for a couple of years. They looked at all the contention that went back and forth about setback, and they affirmed that setback should be a meter. All the garages in our laneway, they all have a meter or 2 meters of setback. Mine's got 1.5 meters. Setback seems like one of those pieces of grace that you offer your neighbors. Also, Tom and Kim at 17 had to take a large tree out. For that, a crane truck was brought back. There was mention of bushes and wires overhead. They were very gently moved aside in order to make a very large vehicle and make it possible for a large vehicle to pass. There's poles back there that are city lighting. If they had to change the transformer, they might require a crane vehicle. They might want to put in a new pole if one rotted. There's a need for emergency vehicles, and other neighbors may want to put in concrete or other things requiring a large truck. This is a narrow laneway. We need every millimeter we've got. Let's see, height. The height is excessive. It's a boxy design. There's one at 31 Alhambra, which is boxy, but the sidewalls on that are lowered actually below the roof lines of adjacent houses to make it more presentable. It's a two floor of boxiness, and then a kind of a third floor with a kind of a pagoda up there. It's sort of semi-nice at 31 Alhambra. And so I question whether 10.14 is reasonable for the quality of the neighborhood. I wish I could show you the pictures. They're all of a two and a half floor houses, you know, elegant trees all around. It's aesthetically very compelling, and that's what people bought. We don't want to live in an area which is one kind of miniature apartment building after another. We didn't buy that, and we don't want that. And so I asked that the 10.14 be knocked back to 8.5, what the bylaw makes necessary. And as for density, it's excessive. The lot is 29 feet 6 inches. Comes to 3,031 square feet. The max floor area of 60%, that should come to 1818 square feet, which is 169 square meters. The total floor area proposed, including the basement, is 342 square meters, with 261 square meters above ground, which is respectively twice the bylaw and 1.55 times the bylaw. There's no need or basis for this except that the developer wants more space for their house. There's nothing in law or the character of the neighborhood that makes that at all necessary. The developer is not trapped in some situation where they have to put up one building or another. I'd like a little more time if I can have it to address soft landscaping.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Soft landscaping is my last point. Again, it's reflected by the bylaw. The developer is already getting a laneway house without contribution to density. They want to put a deck back there. They want a decreased setback at the front. All these things contribute to a very jammed, tightly packed lot, which is totally out of character for what it is right now, with a laneway house high, as wide as possible. And if they got their way, going right to the laneway. I really ask you to consider this in terms of the zoning examiner's report. I ask that you please apply the applicable zoning. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I just had a question, quick question, I'm sorry. So you back on to the laneway, you have a garage back there, you park your
I do.
car back there?
I do.
Do you have difficulty navigating that corner?
I regularly have to account for it, and that's in a small sport vehicle.
Right.
I have a Subaru. It's a small car, and even at that, I'm careful around that corner.
But you can still navigate it?
In that vehicle?
Presumably without veering left before you turn right?
I wouldn't have to swing over the property to make the corner.
Yeah.
No, not in my vehicle, no.
Okay.
It's a small sports car.
Yeah. Okay, cool, man, thanks.
Thanks for asking.
Thank you. My name is Ezio Molinari, and I live at 28 Radford Avenue, which has been in my family since September 1967, when my father bought it for $25,900. I'm speaking as an individual and in no way represented by any other person or group. I want to address specific points with regards to the proposed variances for this file. Firstly, I want to address the informal meeting that occurred on Tuesday, July 11th, 2023. I'd only heard about it by chance. I had not been available for previous meetings. I expected structure and someone to lead the meeting. That was not the case. It was called by an individual who took it upon himself. I announced to those who attended the gathering to save their concerns for the committee meeting, as the final decision is made by the Committee of Adjustments. Draghi was taking formal notes the entire time. During that evening, there was no vote, no consensus, and absolutely no agreement made that evening between all the concerned residents and the property owners. Second point, variance number 1. The design of the proposed structure mimics that of the brutalist architectural movement post-1950. It's cold, linear, with the aesthetic of an institution as opposed to the character of the neighborhood. With a front setback of approximately only 11 feet with no soft landscaping, it is completely out of character. 3. The developer has tried to encourage residents that their project will increase the value in our homes. It only increases property taxes. I'm living in a home purchased for under $26,000 and paying property taxes for a value of about $1 million. One does not realize any value added unless they sell. I'm among many neighbors who have lived on Radford Avenue for decades, if not generations. We are here as a neighborhood. As such, we have concerns when a corporation and a developer look at the profitability of our neighborhood rather than the community that it is. By proposing the list of zoning adjustments, they are looking at a return on investment. After all, the property is owned by a corporation. Point 4. During the meeting, I spoke with the owner and recounted the story of my neighbor, who after searching the market in 2015, decided to add a sizable extension as it was cheaper than moving. I posed to the question as to why would he buy a bungalow and completely tear it down and redevelop rather than modifying his home. He responded by saying that he plans to redevelop the other property once he's moved into 11 Radford Avenue. I see this as an indication of speculation in converting once single-family homes into apartments or other structures. I do not want to set a precedent to encourage other developers to speculate on our neighborhood as such. 5. The reference to my neighbor's extension, I want to relate to the impact of the proposed height and its impact on natural light. With a 15-foot, 2-story extension at 26 Radford Avenue, it blocked 3 windows, which removed most of the light for half of my home. The proposed variance number 2 will have a negative impact with the box-like structure, which will block all natural light from 15 Radford Avenue. I know from experience that this will have an impact on quality of life. Point 6, on variance number 6. The impact of this will have on any service or trade vehicles that need to access the laneway. Once the structure is built, there is no give to the walls, as opposed to the tree branches which can be moved or cut as required. I contend a further study of the impact on access should be required to avoid costly or negative impacts on the access to the public laneway. 7, I feel it necessary to mention there are 41 homes on Radford Avenue, 21 of which are 2 stories or shorter. Most of the remaining are 2.5 stories. It has been stated by the developer that most of the homes were 3-story, possibly to gain influence and support for their plans. This is not the case. Radford Avenue is a tight-knit neighborhood. We look after it as it is our community. We are friendly yet protective. Just because we have a conversation or are present at gatherings in no way concedes any consent. Last night at 8:30 p.m., Draghi and Dean were going door to door to ask for emails to send the new plans and address my letter of objection. I don't think this is appropriate the day before the scheduled meeting. All documents were to be uploaded to the website. I said I would look at the documents on the site. Unfortunately, I was unable to gain access as this page was down for maintenance yesterday and today. I realize there will be changes, but the variances listed are not minor, and as such, I would recommend the proposed plans be rejected and redesigned to fit more suitably with the code guidelines stipulated by the City of Toronto. Thank you. Any questions? Fair enough. Thank you.
Hi, I am Nasheed Farman from 36 Boston Avenue. We use this laneway. The part that abuts or is adjacent to 11 Radford Avenue is the narrowest part of this L-shaped long laneway. There's a reason why the city has a setback of 1 meter. All of us on the wider part of it already have 14 feet and an extra 1 meter setback, 3 feet more. So if you go to my letter of objection, you will see it. I do not understand how giving away 10 centimeter makes a difference. This is how it looks at the widest part of it. That's my setback that's my garage. And that is 9.5 feet. The one, if you go back to mine, there it is 14 feet wide. And with the compliance, the setback that we all have, all the garages have built with a setback of 1 meter. So I'm worried that even though they are trying to do it cantilevered, whatever it is, this is the narrowest part of it. Any trade vehicles, I drive a minivan, it is very difficult already as it is. I think I have scratched my car on both sides by touching the, I think there are hedges on the side. It's very difficult to navigate already as it is, and putting a hard wall as a building there does not make sense. There must be a reason why the city put a setback of 1 meter. I see no reason to change that. So if you go more on mine, then you'll see where, more pictures, so the last one, yeah. So this is how it looks. Yeah, there, if you can make it larger. So so all of us enter the laneway through Radford, and that is the narrowest part of it. It's 9.5 feet. So moving where you see the white garage, that's what has been proposed. So the idea is to move it to the property line without any setbacks, 10 centimeters. That's nothing, 4 inches. Now that was 6 and 7 variants that I strongly oppose. Then the other one is that the building that has been proposed, it really doesn't fit with the neighborhood. This is a modern architecture that is being proposed with, I think, 10.15 meters on all 4 sides. This is a street where we generally have, mostly, I would say, almost 80% of the houses are 2 stories. There are a couple of them that are 2.5 stories. The other thing is that with this ancillary house, it would directly face, it's a privacy concern. It directly faces all our bedrooms. Nothing more to add.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So the same question, so I'm hearing a lot about the laneway. So when you come in through there, you turn right. So do you veer over into that open area when you make your turn?
Yes, if those were not there, I gotta admit, like, yes, I generally try to avoid going in there, but whenever we have to drop things off in our garage, then that's the path we have to use.
And you can't navigate that corner without
And especially
going
if it's
over into
winter,
that?
no way. On winter, there is ice on both sides. You're a very narrow track that you have to follow.
So the laneway's not plowed in the winter
It's not plowed. No, it's not maintained during winter. No, if you move the pictures, it's around. It's after this one. So I generally try to veer. It's like moving a truck. You would try to veer off lane to get into it. So you saw my garage was pictured there. So there we have 14 feet width of laneway, and on top of that, all of us have a meter of setback compliance. That's my garage. And I've also tried to show that there is a setback of 1 meter there.
Your garage is set back 1 meter?
Yes. I think you can see it, right? Because I took it. Oh, okay, yeah. So I'm the first house as you turn. I'm the first one, yeah. Yeah, so I have to veer this way to get in. And it's a headache. If we didn't even have the compliances, there's no way you can make a turn to get out.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm that house. Where your arrow is, that's mine. So right after the turn. So I am facing 15 Radford.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Diana Kaznowski, and I'm speaking on behalf of my parents, Sophia and Eugene Kaznowski, at 15 Radford Avenue. We live next door to the property on the west side, separated by a public laneway. Our first objection letter dated May 10th detailed our concerns about access to our garage and the safe laneway access for all 21 residents to their garages.
Excuse me, could you just slow down and
Sorry.
speak up a little bit?
Okay. The owner and builder met with us on Thursday, July 6th to discuss their concerns personally. The removal of the southwest post blocking our garage access was the only change we signed off on, as the marks show, which I have brought here. All their other concerns were dismissed. The letter, sorry, is that better? The letter of support submitted to the committee by the builder is a falsified document. No signed copy was provided to us, despite being promised one, so we were shocked to see this fraudulent supporting document posted online. We have many objections to this application as proposed, as they will greatly impact our quality of life and enjoyment of our property, but are especially offended by the dishonesty of Mr. Draghi and Mr. Dean. We have concerns about the following requested variances to zoning bylaws. Variance 2, height. The 10.14 meter height of the side exterior main walls is too tall than the max permitted 8.5 meters. The excess height of 1.64 meters will block the sunlight to our east-facing windows in the kitchen and dining room on the main floor and 1 bedroom and bathroom on the second floor. We pleaded with them to lower or reshape the top of the house to allow some sunlight to pass through. The combination of a narrow laneway and a tall building will create a tunnel-like effect with the accumulation of dust, debris, and smell of gas of 21 cars passing back and forth daily. This is not a healthy way to live. All our concerns were laughed at and repeatedly dismissed. There are no three-story houses on our street, only 2.5, and the tall, large box design of the house does not fit the character of our area. We do not want this precedent set on our street. Variance 3, FSI. The floor space index is greatly increased and exceeds the needs of a single-family home. It represents an overdevelopment of the site, and depending on the number of residents actually living there in the future, will negatively impact on noise levels, traffic through the laneway, and parking availability on a street with a very busy mosque. Variant 6 and 7. The detached garage with laneway suite will be located 1.52 meters from the original center line of the lane and 0 meters from the side west lot line. While we greatly appreciate the removal of the southwest post, the owner is not doing us all a huge favor, since a setback is required for all garages on our lane. The distance and angle between our opposing garages are so tight that their current tenants are not able to park their car in their garage because they're unable to navigate the turn even after the snow has cleared. The southwest post will be removed, but the laneway suite itself will extend to the property line, and its height will affect the ability of any service trucks to turn safely into and out of the laneway. During construction, 24-hour access to the laneway must be maintained for the safety and security of all residents. The laneway suite will look directly into our backyard, affecting our privacy and substantially limiting the amount of sunlight coming in from the east. We do not understand what the hardship is in complying with existing bylaws, as there's no justification provided for these requested variances. The property appears to have been designed to exceed bylaws wherever possible. Minor variances should not be used to circumvent the intent of the zoning bylaws or to permit uses or developments that are fundamentally inconsistent with the zoning regulations or the official plan. We do not consider these requested variances to be minor. They have a significant negative impact on us and our neighborhood community. These variances are at the expense of safe laneway accessibility, the enjoyment of our property, and do not fit the characteristics of our street. The email Mr. Draghi sent to us on July 17th at 9:07 p.m., right before the committee hearing, was an unexpected response to our second objection letter and misconstrues again what was discussed and signed on July 6th. Cutting the width of the third story by 11 inches does not decrease its height. Emailing us our own survey and suggesting that neighbors who cannot properly navigate the 90-degree turn on the laneway should perhaps pursue the city does not resolve their requested variances for 2 setbacks to accommodate their laneway suite. Their revised survey was done last year with our cooperation and may be more helpful to their case than ours or their 1947 version showing garage setbacks for both 9 and 11 Radford. A 4-inch setback instead of 1 meter is still not adequate. We are opposed to the redevelopment of the site, but we request the application, we are not opposed to the redevelopment of the site, but we request the application to be rejected and revised plans to be submitted to adhere to existing bylaws more closely. Thank you.
Any questions, madam?
Just to be clear, so your contention is that you didn't agree to removing this post?
No, we agreed. We only agreed for the post to be removed.
Right.
But we had other objections. And the documents my parents signed said they had no further objections to anything else.
Okay, thank you.
But the documents your parents didn't sign, is that right?
No, they did sign. They signed to agree that the post should be removed.
Yeah.
That is the only
But you
change we
say-
agreed to.
Okay, but you say there was another document that was.
Yes, the
forged?
document that was submitted as letter of support on our behalf, sent by the builder, stated that they agreed to everything and no further objections to anything else. That is
Okay.
not true. That statement was not listed on the paper when they signed it.
Just a very quick question, So just a quick question. Your parents' garage entrance is the one that's opposite the
Yes.
existing garage?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, which my brother and father built 25 years ago.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further speakers? All right, are there any speakers? Mr. Skipper, we haven't heard from Mr. Skipper, or Dean Bezramovic.
Or Stefan.
I have not been able to reach Dean or Stefan. Charles Skipper is on the line and unmuted.
Okay.
Hello, good afternoon. Charles Skipper speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I'm the owner of 9 Radford. I've owned it for about 23 years. Absolutely critical to my use of 9 Radford was the concrete sidewalk between the two properties. The existing easement that's described in the deed from 47, either through mistake or just it was maybe accurate at the time, but isn't accurate now, it hasn't been for a long time. That sidewalk goes between the two houses and provides rear access for my property. That is not an issue for this committee. Because it was of such concern, I did commence an application in the court to address it. I have resolved that with the new property owner to make that easement, to redescribe it, have it registered by a court order, and make it mutual so that access to my property for tenants and other purposes is maintained. With respect to the Laneway Suite House, I'm content with the new drawings that were submitted as of today, which remove the post to give some access to that turning radius. My property is immediately beside there and is also used somewhat by residents to make that turn. It is a very tight turn, I acknowledge that, but I think that as long as you haven't got a big moving van or something trying to encroach in that space, I think there's sufficient room. I don't object to the revised plan in that respect. With respect to the building height and the distance of the new structure from my property line, I don't object to that that wall height, mainly because even if the current bylaw was followed, both in terms of setback and wall height, it would still completely block the sunlight that comes into my current house. And so it makes no difference for 9 Radford about that. It's going to get blocked no matter what. So being a realist, I understand that. I did file a letter today with the committee. It's there that reflects these points for the committee and otherwise withdraws the other objections I had in my letters of May the 10th and July the 11th, I think it was, on the variances.
So at this point, you're not objecting, Mr. Skipper?
Correct. Subject to my letter, which says the agreements reached with the applicant.
Yeah.
That letter was sent today. I was advised it couldn't be made part of the record, but it probably should be at some point.
Yeah. Well, it will be. Okay.
I respect my neighbors. Sorry, just to finish off, I respect my neighbors and their concerns, and it's a very narrow lane, and I understand why they are very concerned about it.
So you don't have trouble getting to your garage, but you don't reach the narrowest part, is that correct?
No, but then again, the property that I have has the large parking area immediately adjacent to 11 Radford. So my tenants and my use of the property don't need to make the turn.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. Any questions, panel? Any other questions? No. Okay. Do we have Dean or Stefan?
No, we don't.
Neither of them? Okay. All right. Mr. Dodevsky?
Dean was here, that's the owner, but he had to leave. He teaches a class at 6. To quickly just add to what Mr. Skipper was referring to, his property hugs in an L shape 11 Radford, and there's no longer a garage on his property. It's just basically in an open parking space. And this is the property that's being made most use of in making that turn. The small garage that's at number 11 Radford makes up a very small portion of that turning radius, and if anything, it only affects Mr. Koznovsky from number 9 in taking out his long, I think 1980s vehicle out of the garage. Even if that post were to have remained there, the southwest post, he would still be able to exit, albeit in a different way, and it would make it harder for him. Regardless of that, we have agreed to remove that post. But even aside from that, we are, even if we left the garage as it is and not create any laneway suite, the owner, we're free to just fence that portion of the land in. No one has a right to traverse that land regardless. So we're putting in the laneway suite as the city would like to, or has been encouraging as of late, to create that gentle density in the neighborhood. I mean, there's nothing much to rebut to the things that were said just before, except that I've had never any intention to deceive or make false representations. We've spoken and presented during the meetings. I hadn't promised anything until things were thought out on our end and come back with the suggestions. The most healthy dialogue that we did have was with Mr. Skipper, where actually we were able to converse back and forth. And as he said, he's the one most affected by the changes on his property. The neighbors have no merit in discussing the type of architecture to go on any of these lots. What makes the fabric of a neighborhood is the variety that comes up from the different time periods whenever houses are built. I mean, what we're proposing, again, in summary, it's nothing unusual or nothing out of the ordinary. The laneway suite is something that we would like to add, but in the end, the house is completely within the height limit allowed for the neighborhood, which is 11 meters. And it's on the existing footprint of the existing bungalow, save for that corner that we're infilling.
So what about variance number 7, where the laneway suite will be 0 meters from the side west lot line?
Yep, that's the cantilevered portion. We need that space to create a modest and comfortable apartment up above.
So is the garage that you're using for the laneway suite on the ground floor in the same location?
Yes.
1.52 meters back from the laneway?
No, the garage will remain, yes, in exactly the same position. There's going to be no getting closer to the laneway on that.
1.52 meters from the laneway, is that correct?
Is it currently? Well, let's see, what is the current?
Well, you had that photo, you had that Google map,
Yeah.
that image you just had,
Yeah,
which is
at
really
grade,
instructive.
when that comes up, at grade, what you see will remain there.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
So-
that wall will remain, that cinder block wall that's facing or next to the black car, and there will be beams on top that will carry that second level. But that will remain where it is.
So
there will
Don's
be-
asking, so that where the garage door is, that wall isn't coming any closer to the laneway?
No. It's the floor above, on the second floor, that will
So
come
it's
closer to the
cantilevered
laneway.
over.
Yes.
And this is actually quite instructive. I must admit, I was thinking that this property where those 2 cars are was where your laneway suite's
Yeah,
going.
no,
But that's actually owned by number 9.
Number 9, Mr.
So
Skipper, yeah.
that, right now, is still relatively open.
Open, yes.
So cars that are looking to navigate like you were doing, if you are going to lean over to the left before you make your right-hand turn, you probably do it in number 9's property
Yes.
more than, I think, number 11's. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Okay, Yim?
Yes, I have a question. I just try to shift away from the lane for a moment. I just like to know, on your site plan or anywhere else, you did not indicate what kind of deck you're building in the rear yard.
What
It's a
kind of
large deck.
What kind of a
Yeah.
deck? It hasn't
Yeah.
been decided. I mean, are you talking about materials on the deck or?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm to get
No,
at.
I mean, we'll
Yeah.
do something open where the water can go through. Underneath it could remain gravel as well. I mean, the deck and the size of the deck in the rear is not set in stone. I mean, the design of the property has not been furthered. Once we pass today, then the design will get more detailed and more specific.
Yes, I understand that, but what I'm trying to get at is you have quite a big deficiency in terms of soft landscaping. And I just wonder why the deck has to be that big, since it's like you require 85%, but you only providing 68, it's like a 1/3 deficiency. So I wonder whether you're considering to at least increase some of the soft landscaping.
Yeah, no, we're completely open to that. Definitely.
Okay. Yeah. Mhm. So what you complete open to that? What do you have a proposal? Increase in terms of the soft landscaping? So a concrete figure or number?
Is there a certain number that you're aiming for? I mean, we could decrease the deck so that way it's.
I'm not aiming for. I'm not aiming for anything. Because this is a new laneway house, right? One
Yeah.
of the bylaws is that we require 85% as soft landscaping. And to me, you providing 68 is a big deficiency. I'm just asking you, what you think that you can, what increase you think you can give, so I can support this application more with, I guess.
Well, the parking area, instead of being paved underneath the laneway structure, could remain gravel, so that way it's permeable surface for any water runoff. I mean, we are going to contain any rainwater runoff within our property. That's what we'll do as part of the building permit application process. The deck, we could easily decrease the deck in half and make it a smaller deck. And that's not a problem as well. And all of it could be soft landscaping underneath the deck as well.
If you're gonna do that, it would be helpful if you could provide us with some numbers that back that up, because that would in fact then impact your variance that you're requesting.
Okay, so basically you're looking for a slight increase in the landscape, the soft landscape variance,
I
right?
think that's what Yim was asking for, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
If I may suggest, not a slight, but significant, because 85 down to 58, and I have the same issue that Ms. Chan has raised. You know, I'm glad that you've got a cantilevered.
We can't hear.
Sorry, I keep forgetting you're not with us. I'm glad that you've got a cantilevered second floor to the laneway suite, because the big concern, of course, is I would have been concerned if that garage was coming right up to the laneway.
Understood.
Zero setback there. But the 85% requirement down to 58, that I think is a huge issue.
Okay.
So, and when I looked at your site plan and I noticed the size of the deck, my question was, you know, why couldn't it be smaller and have the soft landscaping so you wouldn't need a variance of this size?
Okay, no, definitely. I can do some quick crunching here to see if the deck were cut in half. Basically, what would that work this out? But looking at this, I would suggest that we could probably increase the soft landscaping to, let me see, between. See, what we would have to do is, because the soft landscaping is between the rear and the front walls, so the rear of the house and the front of the laneway house, we would have to reduce the size of that laneway house a little bit, which would affect the size of the apartment, the livability of that laneway house.
I mean, if I may again, I think your choices are one or the other, or possibly both. Both as in reduce the size of the laneway suite and the deck, or significantly reduce the deck and see what you come up with.
Okay, we could, yeah, let's, shall I do this now and come back to you in a few minutes? Or
So
would you like me to do this right now?
What I suggest is that we move, there's one more item. I
And then
suggest
come
we
back
move
to
on
this?
the
Sure.
other item, we'll come back to you. But before we do, I just wanted to, for my own sake, to clarify that you haven't done anything to narrow the distance from your lot line to your building in the laneway. In other words, you haven't changed the laneway thing to impede any of the neighbors.
No, the building of the second and third story, the second story in particular, goes straight up on the existing walls. There's actually in the expropriation instrument that was registered to number 15, there's actually an allowance for the eaves projection from number 11 Radford onto the laneway, actually. It was written in there, and we would actually be removing those eaves and continuing straight up on that brick wall to the second story. So if anything, we're removing any encroachment that the current house has had on that laneway.
I think the chair was, were you thinking about the laneway suite? So the second story is cantilevered out, I think,
Yes, no,
to
I
you.
understand the
Which is-
cantilever, but I want to know on the ground, if apart from the cantilever, you've moved anything in the laneway suite closer to the lot line?
No, after we've made the reduction, we've moved out of the 4 inches, we've moved away from the lot line, which is the second story. That's the part that was closest to the lot line. And the southwest corner of the existing bungalow is only 1/2 inch away from that lot line. So now we're behind that. If you look at the site plan, you will see the southwest corner has a measurement of 1/2 inch or 13 millimeters. That's existing and that's remaining as it is.
Pull that up again.
Yeah.
Can you pull that up again on the screen? That guy? Just hang on a second. Yeah, that one. There it is. So I think what the chair is asking,
Mhm.
to be abundantly clear,
Yep.
John, this line right here, you're saying that you're wanting confirmation that that garage isn't coming out any
I-
further into the laneway.
I can confirm that.
And the second story will
Yes,
cantilever out over, but
that's
the
correct.
actual first floor
Yeah.
doesn't go out any further than that.
That's correct. Yeah,
So
very
you-
correct.
In essence, you have not affected the neighbor's accessibility to the laneway and the
Correct.
properties.
Correct.
Okay? All right, so we'll go on to the next item.
Okay.
And you do your arithmetic in the corner.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to,
Please, we'd like a chance to rebut some of these points, given that the presenter had so much additional time.
no, I'm sorry.
What-
There was many of you. I think you made your points.
That would have been a good point to make to the presenter as well, right? To say that there wasn't enough time for 10 or 15 minutes.
Through you, Mr. Chair. There are chair remarks, and the order of procedure in Committee of Adjustment is that the applicant presents for 5 minutes. Each of the presenters present for 5 minutes, and then the applicant is able to rebut for 5 minutes, and questions are asked. Questions are not asked, questions are not included in the 5-minute rebut. Okay, so we've heard from you. The applicant is now going back to see what revisions can be made. He'll come back and present those revisions, and then committee will go into committee to make a decision. Thank you.
There are facts here to be determined.
Next item is number 41, 255 McRoberts Avenue. The purpose of the application is to construct a new one-story detached ancillary building, a garage in the rear yard abutting the laneway. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have one form letter in support from 257 McRoberts Avenue. Mr. Trotter?
Yes, Andrew Trotter, 81 St. Clarence Avenue, Toronto. Yeah, I actually have a second support letter I got last night from the neighbor to the south, Ricardo Stanford, 253. Just one note I'd like to make.
Okay, so that's both abutting neighbors.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this seems straightforward. We're going to take it into committee. Do you have anything you want to say to the panel before we go into committee?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, can I just ask to the applicant, what's the extra height for?
Okay, so we came in with quite a larger application back in May and seriously reduced it, but the homeowner is a professional artist. He makes his only money from art, and he needs to make some shelves to store things, plus some of his pieces are quite large, so just lifting and swinging things around, he feels that the extra height is important. The garage is situated on a sloping lane that has various size buildings, especially to the south as you go up the lane. There's there's even two-story commercial. There's a two-story commercial building that's on the lane that is an active commercial building. So it's not, I would say that it's it will fit in. It's not going to all of a sudden you're going to have a bunch of small garages and then one that's a little higher. I think that the way that the slope is situated and some of the non-conforming buildings around it, I think this will sit in quite well on the landscape, so to speak.
So you've made a number of changes from when you were in last. Can you just, did you make the building smaller, or what did you do?
Oh, yeah, we made it, yeah. And we had, basically we were trying to create more of an ancillary building without the garage, with more depth into a basement style thing. So it was considered a two-story. So we brought it back to a garage. We certainly eliminated a ton of variances, and yeah, it's a pretty big change for sure.
So
yeah.
it was considered a two-story when you first brought it forward. You've brought it back, and it's still the same height?
Well, we were going with the depth below the grade. We lowered, so we were creating a basement, and we eliminated the parking, so that it was no longer a building for parking. It was more an ancillary building studio. So we brought it back to the I believe we made it shorter and much shorter. I mean, in depth, and the height from grade is still the same that we applied for earlier, but having the parking, making it a garage, not an ancillary building, and reducing the length of it. Yes.
So is it a garage or not?
Yes, it is a garage now. Yes,
So-
it's a garage. Our application in May was for an ancillary building. Now our application is for a garage. So it's changed. I would say it's gone from, I can't remember if it had 7 variances before. It's gone to 2. So I would say that's a reduction right there.
So, Mr. Trotter, you told Mr. Clay that you needed 4.5 meters because your client is an artist and has large pieces and he needs the height. But now you're telling us it's a garage.
Well, okay, so his wife was trying to share the space with him. She was trying to share the space and make it a duo type thing. Now, all of the floor space was not all, the floor space did not cover the entire building. So there would have been actually more height because the basement to the top of the ceiling would have been about more like 4.5 meters, or sorry, 5.5 meters. So yeah, we have reduced that because we were making it a basement. Now we're keeping the parking space at grade. So we have lost height in what initially we did, and we've certainly lost space and usable space by bringing it back. So I'm not trying to fool anybody, or I'm not trying to say something that isn't happening or that we don't need. We've made these changes because we feel, talking with planning, we talked with planning, and we feel that this was a better application, to put it this way.
But I don't understand still, is you're gonna use this as a garage, or you're gonna use it for a studio, or are you gonna use it for both?
For both.
Okay, and that's why you need 50.97 square meters.
Yes.
And is it internally, is there one floor or 2 floors?
No, it's just one. It's just the parking pad with extra room to work outside of the parking space, and then the ceiling of the roof above, and that's it.
So the height is for, I don't know, how do you read? I mean, I'm splitting hairs here, but I'm trying to understand this one. You need the extra height, for storage, and how would you get,
Yeah.
how would you get access to it up there?
Well, you would have people build shelf type storage in garages. I mean, that's quite common that you would do that if you had to pull the car out to pull something off a shelf. That's a common use of a garage. I mean, people do that all the time, where they would have maybe half of the garage, you would have, storage, and then you have head height to walk underneath the storage. When you're asking for the 4.5 meters, right?
So is this going to be heated so that your client can work there all year round?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I understand what it is now. Okay, any further questions? All right, do we have any comments? Do we have a motion?
I'll
Yes.
take a stab at this one. Thank you, Chair. I appreciate my colleagues' questions, I think, for clarification, because what seemingly is a very straightforward application seems a little bit more complicated when we get into the actual floor area for a single car. Seems to be a rather large space. The additional 0.5 meters height I'm not as concerned about, but certainly it's a large floor space. However, we take our applicant's word that this is a garage and some storage space above the vehicles, presumably.
And a working studio.
And a studio.
Well, can I just mention that it's, he's a single artist. It's not a team of artists working in there. He figures that he can accommodate the space for him this way with parking and the shelves above. That's what it's boiled back to.
But is he gonna be painting in the garage?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. And hence the length of the garage, which is somewhat longer than required for a car. As the variances before us seem to be reasonably straightforward, and we take the applicant at his word that this is a garage and a little bit of a workspace at the same time, I'd like to move a motion to approve without any conditions.
Well, I think that we should amend the purpose and variance number 1 to say garage/studio/storage. Because I think that tells us what it is, more than just a garage. Are you agreeable to that?
Yeah, I think that would be fine, and I'm sure the applicant would be agreeable to it too, I hope.
Can I jump in there?
Yes, by all means.
I do not mind they say there's less studio, but the storage part, I think that is stretching it too much, because people do store things in their garages. I mean, it's not like legislative use. Having a studio in nature versus a garage, it is a different use. But I think,
Well, I think you're
little bit
right.
of storage is always go with garages, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Yim, it also goes with studios, so garage/studio is probably fine.
Through you,
Yes,
Mr.
I think
Chair.
so.
Through you,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, we might need to be careful because we're not sure how the zoning examiner reviewed this. And if they reviewed it as a garage, and now you want to include studio, perhaps we can come out of committee and go back to the applicant.
Okay. Mr. Trotter, would you have any problem saying garage/studio?
I don't have a problem with it. I'm assuming that the fact that it has the tag garage would keep it the same zoning, that the same bylaws would apply. I don't see why that would change. So however it's termed wouldn't be, but there's a lot of people work from their garages in this way. It's not unusual, but if yeah, sure, I'm happy to, you know, whatever works, obviously, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but we concerned that this might not pass the zoning examiner.
Well, I've never been in a situation like this where we've had, you know, we've been trying to determine the use of a garage. Like, I mean, you know, if a car is going to park in there, I would say that's a garage. And then if someone, you know, needs, you know, if someone's going to be doing work in there, whether they're, you know, doing their gardening or they're have a little wood shop or they're, you know, I'm, you know, I feel a little confused about that, but I'm open to discussion. I mean,
Well, when we were discussing this, it seemed to me that in order to justify the height and the size, the floor area, we had to include studio.
okay.
That's why I suggested garage/studio, because it doesn't make a lot of sense for a single car garage to be that large or that high. But I don't want to get you into any zoning difficulty. So is it, Sabrina, would it be better just to leave it at garage?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just looking at, you know, the definitions, and an artist studio means premises used for creating art or craft. And I'm just concerned that that's not what the zoning examiner reviewed at the time of their review. They were reviewing for a garage.
Okay, well then how about we bring it back to 46 square meters and we call it a garage. We'll reduce it.
Can I jump in? Mr. Chair,
Yes.
to me, the half meter high, extra height, and a little larger garage, to me, I have no problem supporting it, only because I'm just trying to look at the impact. What really extra impact it can have to the neighbors, right? So I'm ready to support that anyway, but I thought that you want to sort of clarify the use and then to justify your decision, but it's really up to you. But I don't need that extra explanation to give a little bit height and a little bit more floor space, because I think that the impact is more or less the same.
Yeah, okay, let's just leave it at garage then. Is that here?
Perfect, thank you, Chair.
Okay,
So-
do we have a seconder? Yim, all in favor? Larry, are you in favor? No? Okay. Larry, you're opposed?
Yes.
Okay, so the application is approved 3-1. Okay. Mr. Dedevsky, are you completed your assignment?
Yes. Okay. So we could increase the soft landscaping in the rear yard to 78%. So 70 instead of the 85 required. So
Just
that
a
would
minute.
make it,
So that's variance number 5?
yes.
Okay.
John, can I just have you present the variances on the screen? Thank you.
So your figure is 78,
Rather than 58.5,
78?
78%, yes,
Yeah,
78.0.
No point
Uh,
anything.
No, just 78.
Okay, so how
0.0.
many square meters is that?
I did calculate it, so that's a total of 54.7 square meters
Okay,
versus the 41 that were proposed, that are on the site plan.
yes.
So that'll be, 54.7 out of 69.7.
Yeah.
And how did you achieve that?
by reducing the deck size.
Okay.
So it'll be more soft landscaping in the space.
So you will have to submit new plans?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any more questions, panel?
The only other paper I wanted to show, just as many as made themselves vocal about being opposed, we had just as many.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can't accept this.
All right.
Okay. Do we have any comments? Do we have a motion?
I'll start, Chair. I'm sure others will want to chime in. First off, just wanted to thank everyone for coming in today and sharing your views. I can assure you that we have heard you today, and we've also read all the material that you've submitted, and wanted to thank you for the time and effort and passion with which you've presented your views. Having said that, I have a number of observations. On the main structure, 3 stories are allowed in this neighborhood. We are seeing lots of these kinds of proposals in neighborhoods across the city. So this is not an unusual application in that regard. I did drive around the neighborhood, and there are, I know people said there's 2 and 2.5 stories. There are a few 3 stories in that neighborhood, albeit they are of older stock. I acknowledge that. But there are a lot of dwellings that would appear to be of similar height to the proposal. The applicant has set back the front and rear on the 3rd story, which I think is helpful. Appreciate that the design sometimes isn't consistent with what people think represent necessarily the character of the neighborhood, but neighborhoods are changing and they are evolving, and that's just a fact. So I don't have any real issue with the main dwelling. A lot of the opposition was about the laneway and the laneway suite and the access, and we heard a lot of, not only today, but we've read an awful lot about that. I think through the discussion today, in my mind, it clarified a great deal what exactly is being proposed, and the fact that on the 1st floor, the proposed laneway suite is not encumbering in onto the laneway any further than it currently is. So I think that's a positive for the, and removing the post, I guess, is helpful in that regard, in terms of not presenting or providing an obstacle to people, even though that's on private property. Let's be honest, people do kind of carve out and move their vehicles on property so they can make that turn. I was also struck by my misunderstanding that the property kind of immediately on the corner isn't yours. It was number 9. And right now, there are no plans to change that. And that, to me, is the more critical property that facilitates people's access in turning into that lane. And that's not, at least at this point, that's not being changed at all. So I don't see an argument that your proposed laneway suite is going to encumber people's access into that lane any further. And on those rare occasions where there is a utility vehicle or something that needs to go in there, I'm sure folks will figure out a way to accommodate that. So the laneway suite, you know, otherwise is fine. We appreciate, I think we all appreciate the additional soft landscaping. That is a priority of this committee. It's a priority on every application, and, you know, applicants would be wise to come in with better proposals in the future because that's something we take very seriously. So that's a good thing, I think, that you've increased to almost to the point where you wouldn't need a variance. So for all those reasons, I think it's a supportable application.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that, and this is often the case, that the application itself is sometimes confusing. So variance number 7 says the ancillary building for the laneway suite will be located 0 meters from the side lot line. Well, that gives me pause, gave you pause, but we didn't understand that the cantilevered part on the second floor, which doesn't affect the access to the laneway, was why it was 0 and nothing changed on the ground. And I think that is in part a lot of the reason why there was a misunderstanding, that you were all opposed, because you thought that the laneway was width that you were using to access the laneway was changed, and it actually hasn't been. So, is there any other comments? So here, Yim, yes, Yim?
I agree. I actually, in the beginning, I was not going to be able to support this because it looked like the location of the laneway suite is really in a way bad location, right at the corner. It looks scary. But I think after the explanation and after evaluating the existing condition, they are not actually, I mean, I'm convinced by the evidence, by the applicant's evidence, that they are not making it worse. They are not decreasing the accessibility of the lane. So he sort of made me turn around, and then I think I can support that. I'm glad that they increased the landscape, soft landscaping. That also is, to me, is how I changed my mind halfway, and now I'm convinced this is a supportive application.
So Chair,
Just wanted to add a couple of comments before we're done. I think Mr. Clay has summed up the situation quite well, and I do believe now it's a supportable one. And as Mr. Clay mentioned, I think it would be wonderful. I'm not directing this at you, but any other applicant coming in, if they would listen to some of the issues that we raise at the committee, come in with applications that already have addressed many of these concerns and issues, I think the process would be much smoother and quicker, much faster. So thank you for doing what you did, and thank you to folks who came in to voice their objections. Apart from a village taking a village to raise a child, I think it also takes a village to make our communities livable. So thank you all.
So Chair, I'm happy, I'll move approval of this amended application. We're amending variance number 5 to read.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we're actually amending variance number 3, variance number 5, variance 6, 7, and 8, as stated by the applicant.
Right.
So variance number 3 is going to 0.93, which is 261.6 square meters. Variance number 5 is going to 78%, which is 54.7 square meters. Variance number 6 is going to 1.62 meters. Variance number 7 is 0.1 meter. Variance number 8 is 8.28 meters.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so with those amendments, and I don't think there are any other conditions.
I think that there should be a condition that the applicant file revised plans.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would not do that only because we haven't seen those plans. So as part of the building permit stage, the applicant will have to submit revised plans to reflect the revisions of the variances that you may approve today,
Okay.
So we don't get them?
because we haven't seen them.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right, so here,
I'll second that motion, Chair.
all right, all in favor? You have your approval, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
All right, and we are now completed the afternoon list, 6:25 PM.
We're at
now-
6:35 PM.
Pardon?
We're adjourning at 6:35?
25,
Oh, okay.
no,
We-
it says 6:25 on my, it says 6:35 on
Yeah?
that one.
Okay.
I don't know
Let's
which
split the
one's right.
difference.
Okay, we're gonna say
6:30.
we're gonna say
It's
6:30.
6:35.
We're saying 6:35 by cell phones. Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Yim. Yim, before
Thank
you
you.
go, how did it work from your end? This,
Okay.
yeah,
Actually, I got really confused with this hearing because I